I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
You're crazy! He's going to break Hastings' world title.
For Mike Gosby! Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! Itchy Hoy is going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been!
From the high-speed nature of Barcelona, we go across the Atlantic to Montreal and to Canada, where the tricky little chicanes are going to be the challenge for the drivers today. 70 laps of action is coming our way this evening with some of the fastest drivers on rFactor 2. It's the FSR VCO World Championship. Myself, Cameron Rodger, Zach Sweeney bringing you through the action, and Daniel Costello on the production behind the scenes bringing you the cameras today. Zach, it's certainly going to be a bit of a change from what we saw a few weeks ago at Barcelona. It's definitely going to be a lot slower in the corners and maybe some tricky traction zones. Definitely a different challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, indeed. So going to be very, very taxing on the tyres as well. Montreal, you know, it's tight, it's twisty, as you say. A lot of acceleration zones with the tight and fidgety chicanes at some point. I think whoever was designing the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, was like, do we have enough chicanes? No, we don't. Let's whack some more in. So yeah, always going to be very, very tough on the tyres. Incredibly high temperatures, as we've seen throughout the evening with both Academy and Pro. Couple that with the softest compounds in our range. Yeah, strategy, I think, is going to be the name of the game today, Cam.
Yeah, you're right. We have 5 compounder tyres available, and we've had the sort of the middle 3 at Bahrain. We had the hardest 3 at Barcelona. Now we go to the softest 3 compounds here at Montreal. Certainly going to be a tricky one, and 70 laps. And yeah, definitely an interesting one. Qualifying coming the way not too shortly, but we'll show you, of course, the schedule and show you what the drivers are going to be challenged with throughout this season. 9 races. We've done 2 already, as we mentioned, at Bahrain and Barcelona. We come to Montreal to finish the first third of the season before we have a bit of a European run again with Silverstone, Imola, Spa, Monza, before we have a couple of flyaways at the end with Suzuka and, of course, Sao Paulo to finish the season up in October. Is there any other tracks, Zach, you're looking forward to for the drivers this season?
To be fair, all of them. I think that we've really hit the nail on the head in terms of the calendar. So many historic races, you know, ones that have given us some great action in the past with FSR as well. Obviously, you know, Barcelona a couple of weeks ago was one that maybe I was a little bit skeptical on because of the real life reputation, but the modifications made to the circuit made it into a very interesting race. So if Barcelona can do it, I'm certain that each and every single one of them can. And then we end this season, of course, at Sao Paulo, which, yeah, I'm looking forward to. It's always a great season finale in Brazil.
As of course, last season we had an amazing finale with Colin Spork leading the championship at the end of 2022. He's the reigning champion, but he's down in 7th place in the championship. Ironically, right next to Dennis Jordan and Alex Siebel, who of course were his championship rivals last season. But it's changed around a bit this season. We've got Yani Simchitch leading the way after getting a 2nd and 1st place in the first 2 rounds and leading the way by some 14 points. Jake Dennehan won that first race but couldn't back it up in Barcelona, got stuck a little bit in the mid-pack there, only getting 11 points. Adam Maguire had a very strong race last time, getting a P2. He's there in that 3rd place. And as you see, Zach, just behind them from 4th down to 9th with Deval down to Alex Siebel. It is so close, just a few points between them all.
Yeah, that midfield fight amongst sort of the mid-range of the top 10 has been so good. I mean, we saw it in Bahrain, we saw it at Barcelona. They are so incredibly close on pace, and well, they've all just been putting in the appropriate lap times, doing the races to the best of their ability, and it has been a very, very close fight, and one that I am very looking forward to seeing develop as the season goes on. Interestingly as well, also the fight towards the front end. So many different narratives still to talk through this season, and today we sort of end the first third of it. It's been so far a fantastic season. I'm looking forward to seeing what's to come. So many big names into FSR this year, and obviously, as always, the return of some the same expected racing standards, and well, bring on the rest of the season and bring on Canada.
Yeah, you're right. Big names here in the VCR World Championship this year. RHG joining the fray. Ferrari eSports coming in as well as a Race Clutch and Alpine of course, bring their 2 teams effectively as well, working together there. So definitely loads of names up towards the top. We have a couple of changes for this round. Tom Oldermenger is replacing Damien Skovron. Oldermenger actually replacing Michi Hoyer last time out, but now replacing Damien Skovron. So he's getting a second round in the WC. And also we have Christian Pascal replacing Martin Mergeli for Visceral as well. So definitely, a couple other drivers to come in, but as ever, they'll be fast enough and they'll be up towards the top. So I think, Zach, once again, we are expecting a pretty close qualifying session here.
Oh, absolutely. It's a shorter circuit, only about 1:11 in terms of lap time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this qualifying session, because all throughout Academy and Pro, obviously they are not the World Championship, but they still give us a good benchmark in terms of times. Very, very close in competitiveness. So yeah, bring on this qualifying session. Should in theory be, I don't want to say quite important, because I mean, Tom Oldenmenger in Pro managed to climb his way up the field to a podium, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I don't want to say qualifying is important, but it is definitely going to help to have that track position just to ease you into the race, particularly with the strategy as well. If you can start at the front and stay at the front, you might have a better and easier time of things than someone who's right in amongst the pack, having to fight their way through, burning through their tyres. So yeah, this qualifying session could be quite decisive.
And one other change that we had sort of for this race as well is the kind of philosophy behind the DRS. So something that, of course, over the last few years of FSR using cars with DRS, we've sort of followed the real life, layouts of the track, where they put the DRS zones, etc. However, for this track, we've basically reduced it down to one DRS zone, which is down that back straight, down the casino straight into the final chicane, and it's much shorter. It's way after that kink that you'd normally be, assuming that's the start. It's way down there, so it's about half of the straight, so it's a lot shorter than normal, and also the detection is 0.7 seconds rather than 1, so you have to be a lot closer, and also you only get one chance on a lap. So maybe, Zach, that's going to change how drivers attack the race as well, because you can't just overtake willy-nilly. You can't just be in a train sitting behind some cars so easily as well.
No, definitely not. I think it is a good change. I think taking away the reliance on DRS to get overtakes done, taking away that complacency. Beforehand, it was a case of, you know what, I'm happy, I'm just going to sit behind, dilly-dally for a while. Once we get to the straight, boom, put my foot down, press the DRS button, and away I go. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, right? And now, particularly at a circuit like this, you're going to have to be a lot more clever about how you get things done. You're going to have to set moves up. You're going to have to be a little bit closer on corner exit, utilize the slipstream a little bit more. That's not to say we're not going to see DRS overtakes full stop, but we're definitely going to see a lot less of them, which I am all here for. And it also means that we are going to slowly eradicate those DRS trains, which, while are good at keeping cars close, aren't exactly good in giving us some fantastic racing action. So for sure, something for the drivers to look out for, and just an added thing that they're going to have to manage, and yet another thing that the better drivers are going to master quicker than the good drivers.
Yeah, and I think the main thing that is really going to change here specifically as well is one thing we saw in Bahrain, first race of the season, with this man, Yani Simchitch. He was leading with a few laps to go, and he tried to pull away from Jake Denham, but he couldn't, because there was 3 DRS zones on that track, just pulling Jake along. Not to say that Yani would have won otherwise, but just as an example, whereas here, if he is able to pull out of that DRS zone through Sector 1 and Sector 2, and maybe then pull that gap, he might be able to actually pull away and therefore stretch the pack out and open these things up. But talking of Yani Simchitch, he's coming to the line to start his first qualifying lap. We're expecting them to have enough time to fit about 3 laps into it, as he's coming through turn 1 and 2 here. Very fast speeds around here. Of course, it's more of a chicane style layout, but they are actually pretty fast.
Oh yeah, they are mightily quick chicanes here at Montreal, and well, especially in these modern single-seater machines, always great fun to chuck them around. I mean, I know you just had a lot of fun in Pro chucking them around. It's a fantastic circuit, Montreal. It flows really nicely. The chicanes maybe can be a little fidgety at times, but if you get it right, you get it really right. Look at Yani Simchitch and just the commitment that he has chucking through each and every single one of these corners, and that's something you've got to have, is commitment and confidence. He's not stabbing away at the wheel, doing the seesaw. It's one committed move, and then that's it. It's done. He's sorted. It's so smooth. It's so precise. That's exactly what you need to get a good lap time around it.
Yeah, it's really his driving style, and it suits this car as well. It's not the highest grip circuit, let's put it that way. The drive's always sliding around a bit, absolutely chunking those sausage curves. out of the final corner. We're looking for low 11s or maybe even into the 10s for that pole position. And Yani Simchitch on a 0.2, but he goes to P2 actually because Adam Maguire has got just ahead by 19 thousandths of a second. But look at these times in behind, just tenths of a second separating really the top 5-6 cars. That is what we want to see as Siebel goes up into 6th place.
Absolutely, this is what we like to see. 19 thousandths between the top two. Yes, please. Adam Maguire, by the way, was the one to take pole position at Barcelona and is looking to replicate that success here today as well. Colin Spork out of the Wall of Champions, just trying to put in his first lap time, the reigning champion for Alpine eSports, getting I don't want to say a slow start because it's not been a bad start to the season for him, just not quite reigning championship material and definitely going to be aspiring for more. I think Colin Spork is Tom Lastly for Race Clutch is really impressed on his debut. He's up there in 5th. Siebel though and Ferrari in general, again, I think that Siebel and Jordan off the back of last season, the success that they had, again, they would have wanted more, but obviously a new team, new environment. I think they can be very, very happy with what the sort of kickstart the season off with today. And as it stands in qualifying, they're 6th and 7th, which is exactly where sort of, in theory, they should rack up after their performances throughout Bahrain and Barcelona. So they are looking very, very impressive. And, well, still just over half the session left to go. As Colin Spork, that is really going to harm the rest of his qualifying session because he's got a lot more pressure on the rest of his laps to put in a good time.
And the hardest bit of this track as well is the final chicane, especially in qualifying. You have to absolutely nail those curbs. And if you don't have the confidence, you can definitely lose a good couple of tenths just in those corners. And now he's putting even more pressure on himself. So when he gets to the next lap, potentially comes out final corner, he's like, oh, do I send it or I not? Because there are a couple of tenths waiting for you if you want to do. Got some drivers now coming out for their second timed laps. Got Jake Johan as well. He's in sector 3. He'll be finishing his lap soon. Won the first race, struggled last time. Hopefully he can get himself a bit higher up. Duval is on a purple middle sector as it stands. Maguire improving in that first sector. So definitely a lot of colours lighting up our time screens. Of course, if they do that white sector, as you see on the little markers next to their name, that means they're not improving. But for a lot of drivers, they are green at the moment.
They are indeed. So taking the right steps forward, Adam Maguire with one of the best steps forward, green through the first, purple through the middle, and so far quickest of anyone. I think actually Tom Lastly has just tipped that with a 23.1 through the middle sector. So looking very, very quick for the Frenchman. Liam Duval goes to pole position for RHG. So far a lockout for the outfit. Oh my word, committed through the final chicane. Adam Maguire might have lost a little bit of time from that across the line. Is it reclaiming pole position? It is, but still by only less than half a tenth. The margins are, well, almost just non-existent. 47 thousandths of a second between two teammates is amazing to see.
We are starting to see the top sort of 4 start to make a bit of a gap. It's all sliding there out to the final corner, or the final hairpin, I should say. Dennis Jordan coming to the line. Man, it is such a close session, especially look at that midfield, so around 12th place. All the drivers on the 0.5s, the 0.6s away from pole position. That is where you basically have a blink of an eye and you're going to gain suddenly 5 places. All in the wall, potentially scraping up against it for Dennis Jordan for Ferrari across the line. Is he going to improve? Yes, he does, up to P4. That's a bit stronger. And Ferrari outfit have struggled a little bit in the qualifying in the first couple of races.
Yeah, they have ever so slightly, and I think it has damaged their start to the season. If they can just string up a good qualifying session, they might well be able to have a little bit more success in the race, particularly potentially a day like today, where there is a big emphasis on strategy, where, you know, DRS is not going to be as powerful, track position is going to mean a little bit more. Jordan and Siebel can get themselves up, it is going to really benefit them. But as we were talking about, you know, quite often, Cam, how competitive this World Championship grid is. I mean, the top 10 separated by less than half a second. Nothing in it whatsoever. So to put in a good lap time is one thing, but it's those fine margins, like that 47 thousandths of a second between pole and second place, that really make the difference. Dennis Jordan and Alex Siebel can put in a sensational lap time, but if they're still even a tenth of a tenth off the car in front, that is the difference, and that is one extra car they're going to have to overtake. So they really have to make sure that they are putting a lap time in that's ever so slightly head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, Spork there finally gets lapping. He's in P12 at the moment, but only just 2,000 behind Andre. We come to the front though. Liam Duval improving purple first 2 sectors. That is looking amazing for him. Just half a tenth he needs to get his teammate to have a bit of a RAG lockout, but who is going to be on pole? Is it going to be Maguire? Is it going to be duel? And we've had a purple in that first sector though from Rankfist. He's taken that away from duel. Of course, duel can still improve as it stands into that final chicane. How much of the curb is he going to use? Just about a tyre width on each and very calm out of the final corner up towards the line. A very, very long run. Is duel going to sneak on official pole? Yes, he is. By a quarter of a second into the 10s. Absolutely huge lap there by Liam duel.
What a lap time. Oh my god. I was like, yeah, Purple first, Purple second sector. He'll probably get it by like half a tenth or whatever. A quarter of a second, Liam duel. Oh my word. What a lap time. Adam Maguire is in the pit lane, which means that he's probably not going to take further part, or he might be able to squeeze one in. Not entirely sure. Yani Simchitch is starting at one of his last laps. 4/10 now is the margin that Yani Simchitch has to gain, but so far this season, Cam, he's not yet taken a pole position, and well, he's never finished off the podium, so I'm sure he's not too worried about this.
Yeah, we've had, out of the 6 opportunities for podiums, as such, 3 in each, of course, only one person has done it twice, which is Yani Simchitch. So we had 5 different people, but Yani first and second, absolutely sliding the rear there, coming out to turn 6, a very important corner, of course, onto this back straight, in towards this next chicane again, huge curb, sliding the rear, getting the bit of a tank slap to sort of rotate the car as well, and now into the hairpin. We're going to see the sector 2 times. Is there going to be improvement? No, there's not, but it's still pretty strong middle sector. Could be enough sliding on the rear. I don't know if this is going to be it for Yani.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He needs to be improving in each and every sector to at least put a dent on the RAG boys, and it's not quite been good enough. I mean, a 23.3 isn't a slow middle sector by any means, but in margins as tight as this, it is going to make the difference. Absolutely chonking the curbs and smashing straight into the wall of champions. Same too with Jan Rankfist. I mean, there's hitting the wall of champions, Cam, and then there's Yani Simchitch the wall of champions like he's just done. Yeah, that's one way to end qualifying in style. I'll put it that way.
There's Sport there, improved to 11th place. His teammate right next to him, so Alpine maybe in a little bit of a spot above her. They were 3rd and 4th for quite a lot of that Barcelona race before they were taken by Simchitch in the latter stages. But not be able to replicate that. They were behind RHG on that day, but they are massively far behind, 6 and 7 tenths off the RHG boys as it stands, as we're looking at Tom Lartulu. For Race Clutch, of course, teammate of Alpine, and he's the top one in that stable as it stands. Coming into the hairpin, doing quite late apex actually there, trying to get a better exit out onto this final straight. duel has finished. He's got a checker flag next to his name. He won't be able to improve, but he's got such a gap. I would be surprised if someone takes it away from him now. Maguire not improving, Jordan not improving, but Lartilo is coming towards this final chicane, the only DRS zone on the track. Absolutely chunked the curves, but he's gone too much as well. They're taking too many risks, and he's gone for a spin.
Yeah, I suppose, and again, a session as competitive as this, you need to take those risks to find that extra little margin. Darius Andre for Visceral eSports, slow to the first, quick to the middle, and I don't think he was too happy with that lap, to be honest. I mean, if he went to Le Mans, he might have a quick car, but yeah, I'm still not confident in the state of that car. Same to Peter Burlak as well. Alpine, both cars outside the top 10, Cam. That is not good news.
World of Champions, and between Burlak and Simchitch, we just seen 4 World Championship titles going into the wall, and of course Yani finishing 2nd multiple times as well as Burlak as well. So yeah, a lot of silverware and trophies going into the wall, just proving its name. But of course, being SimRacing, they'll have fresh cars to come out onto the track for the race, which we led the way of Liam duel and Adam Maguire. RHG lock out the front row. Congratulations to them, and of course Simchitch and Dennis Jordan in behind. It's looking tight though, especially that midfield, Zach. It's going to be so close in the race, and the drivers are going to have to work out what they're going to do on the strategy to try and get past some of the cars around them.
Yeah, that is going to be the big divider, I think, is going to be that this race is won or lost in the pit lane on a day like today, with how close and competitive it is. I'm sure we are not going to see a lack of overtaking on track, but I think the major talking points are going to be that direct fight in the pit lane. Liam duel and Adam Maguire for RHG, though, what a lineup for them, and a great way for RHG to control this race.
Yeah, let's see the starting grid then for this Canadian Grand Prix. Liam duel, Adam Maguire is your front row, followed in behind by Yani, Simchitch and Dennis Jordan. Yeah, Jordan will be a lot more happy with that qualifying. Hopefully he'll be able to challenge for the podium today. Rankfist and Mitchie Hoy in behind, so Burst having 2 drivers in there in the top 6, which they haven't had so far this season really. Seaball and Latu in behind for your top 8. Good to see so many teams represented up towards the front, and that continues with Jake Dennehan and Yannick Bock there, followed by the 2 Alpines of Spork and Bolak rounding out your top 12. And what a stacked top 12 that is. Janis Brakshock is following in behind with Darius Andre. Davin Mrochek actually got a podium in that first race, down in 15th today though. And Matthew Williams, also a podium finisher in the WC, down in 16th place. Valeriano, followed by Danny Vandeny inside your top 18 with Mark Schluter and Zolt Jukes there, down in 20th place for Ground Effect. Mika Hakimi in 21st with Kostas Bamboukas, Carlos Martin, and the mod creator himself, Robin Panzer, down in 24th. He'll be a little bit disappointed with that. He was doing a lot better last race. Callas in P25 with reserve driver Tom Oldemenger in P26. Cosmo Prosciutto, pro champion last year, in 27th. And Christian Pascal, also reserve driver, in 28th. And then your final row is Stavros Mizaidis and Jukapeka Lalu for Super Venturi there, rounding out your 30-car grid for this Canadian Grand Prix. And as we said, Zach, 70 laps of action. We're looking at somewhere in the region of 20 laps or so on the hards, 15 or so on the medium. So probably a 3, maybe a 4-stop strategy. There's going to be a lot of strategic work for the engineers of these teams.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're going to be earning their money today, I'm sure. And yeah, I mean, around Montreal, it's not the longest pit lane in the world, so I think maybe you could get away with a 4-stop. It just is entirely dependent on how easily you can get your way through traffic. I think we might well see some disparity. Some people going for the 3, others going for the 4. I think it is dependent on how well they can save their tyres, how aggressive they want to be, and how efficient you can make up the extra time that you would take for a 4th stop. I can definitely tell you for sure, though, that we will not see the Red Bull soft compound tyre at any point during this race. It's mediums, it's hards, and it's a very careful right foot all the way around this circuit today, Cam.
Yeah, the rear tyres are the ones to worry about. We already mentioned this. There isn't really any high-speed corners. They're all chicanes and hairpins around this track. So therefore, you don't really put so much load on the front tyres. You don't have those long, high-load corners where the front left or the front right is really taking all the pain. It's the rears here. It's the traction's out of the corners. And then despite having the softer range of tyres, the grip is still not the highest around this track. So you will see cars sliding around on the rear, especially after maybe 10-15 laps of the stint, when the rears start to give up. But of course, the tyre choice is then quite interesting. We're going to see a lot of the hard compound tyres, as you would expect. But then when do you use your medium stint? Do you use it at the beginning? Do you try and get a few places on lap 1, but then you're potentially a bit slower later on in the race? Whereas do you save your mediums for the final stint when you've got the lightest fuel and your car's going to be the fastest that it is in the whole race?
I think it depends on starting position, and even then there are sort of compromises and way-ups that you need to have. If you're starting more towards the front, potentially the R8G boys might start on the mediums just to use them to get away, particularly with the DRS not being as powerful. Unlike, Yani Simchitch at Bahrain, they are able to maybe just put their foot down, use those mediums and build the gap and maybe make their lives a little bit easier. But also maybe there's benefits to starting on the mediums if you're amongst the pack. Use them to carve your way through the field. So many different possibilities ahead, and well, I think only time will tell, because always strategy is an interesting affair when it comes to Formula Sim racing, and particularly at the VCO World Championship as well. But yeah, I'll be honest, personally, I've always seen the benefit in taking a fast stint as late as possible. The car it weighs less, as you say, less fuel, and it's that last dash. You've got that motivation to chase down some good positions. So yeah, well, I don't know. We'll bring it on, and we'll wait and see what the first sort of few rounds of pit stops will bring us.
Yes. Oh man, I would not want to be a strategist today. There's so many choices, and I do think we're going to see some interesting games of drivers jumping in maybe early, trying to get those mediums on at a different point to get undercut. But then it depends on the gaps. The gaps in the traffic, because we've got 30 cars. We saw how close the race pace is. I think we're going to see somewhat of a train of cars, not necessarily like a DRS train as such, but there isn't going to be those 5-10 second windows where you can drop into. So it's going to be very difficult. And of course, at the front, we're going to see some very interesting battles. Simchitch last time won the race from P11. Today, he's P3 and he's right behind the R8G boys on lap 1 rather than on lap about 60. So he potentially has a bit easier, but let's see if R8G can try something to get their first race win in the World Championship.
Indeed. So Adam Maguire was able to get very, very close last time. It was the split strategy at Barcelona that really was decisive. I'm not entirely sure Yani Simchitch actually spent that long with the R8Gs over the course of Barcelona. I think there was a couple of laps where there was a bit of a strategical overlap, and then obviously at the end when he put the laps in to overtake them. Apart from that, they were in sort of two completely different worlds. So I'll be interested to see if we are going to see something similar over the course of today. But R8G very decorated in the world of sim racing, particularly recently as well, on the up and up with things. And well, now coming into the FSR season, let's see what they can do, because they have really impressed so far. Adam Maguire seems to be sort of a new driver in that lineup, and well, is completely flying out in front. And well, again, let's just bring it on. What can the R8G boys do from the front, and what can those do in behind as well? In a race that is going to be incredibly difficult due to the circumstances, we're in for a good one.
Yeah, we certainly are. And the drivers, of course, just going around for their formation lap. And it's a time for the drivers to settle down the nerves, try and get themselves in a bit of position. But one thing I think that we're not going to be seeing today is drivers doing any sort of tyre warm-up. They want them to be as cool as possible, because the overheating will already be an issue some laps into the race. You see there the blue and orange and a bit of yellow on there for the R8G cars coming into that hairpin. I just, for their sake, hope that they can have another nice result, getting themselves onto the podium. Zach, what are your predictions for this race? Do you think we're going to be sort of status quo at the front, or do you think we're going to see someone like Michi Hoyer or Siebel a little bit further back coming up and grabbing the podium?
Don't do this to me, Cam. Why?
On the spot, mate.
It's horrible. Disgraceful. It's not like I do it to you every time. I don't know. I think R8G have got a really strong lineup up in front, and they are going to be able to support each other because both cars are on the pace. Is that going to be a blessing? Is it going to be a burden? Because obviously if both cars are on the pace, then both cars are in contention for a race win. Who knows? Maybe we could see Lartalou finally have a good start. Obviously at Barcelona he didn't move and was able to showcase his pace. Maybe he is on the up. Michi Hoyer up there in 6th though, must say. Very, very impressed with him, and maybe we could see it. I want to see Ferrari do well. Particularly on a day like that depends on strategy, so at least they can redeem themselves in the sim world and bring them some good reputation on their debut in FSR. The cars line up on the grid now, Cam, and I've completely avoided the question, but I don't know. I think Simchitch is on good form. He's clever with the strategies. I'm going with the cliche one.
Well, let's see what is going to happen. 70 laps of action here for the Canadian Grand Prix, round 3 of 9, and already a third of the season done after the next couple of hours of racing. R8G lock out the front row, but they've got some fast guys in behind them. Got Jake Denhan there down in 9th place, winning that first race of the season. He'll be wanting to improve and try and get back to the front of this grid. And as the lights come on, see some smoke in the air, but it's going to be Liam Duval leading the way down towards turn 1. Good start from everyone so far. Simchitch diving it down the inside already. Contact is made. He manages to get just about up into 2nd place, but maybe not. As we're going to see Maguire come back, push to pass will be used. Hybrid for system and boost. Coming towards turn 3. Can they keep it side by side on the grass again? For Simchitch, he's going to have to back out to that one, and it's going to be Rankfist coming through for 3rd place.
What a start this is. Simchitch on the back foot then as they run their way in towards the next chicane. Oh my word, he threads the needle. Simchitch to the inside, and Rankfist has gone the long way round. Beautiful start then, it must be said, from the Super Venturi driver. Great start from the two R8G boys. Here comes Simchitch though, straight back to the inside. Michi Hoyer trying to make the move on Dennis Jordan as well into the background. Michi Hoyer and Alex Siebel can thwart their attack. And now Yani Simchitch is still behind Jan Rankfist at the opening moments of this race. Really not ideal for him. Inside line as we head our way into the hairpin as well. Bit of a bunchy up. The Constantino effect causing a bit of contact. It's absolute chaos for anyone behind Maguire.
And Spork's had a great start. He's got up into 9th place. Denahan as well has made him a position. Mitchie Hoy now is trying to get on the back of one of the Ferraris. They're up ahead. Shame for Simchitch losing out, because that gives RHG a bit of a gap at the front. Side by side, some of these drivers into the final chicane. No moves made though, as they're trying to work their way out. And of course, as I mentioned, hybrid system is in play. They have a push to pass overtake button that they can use for quite a few seconds, about 15-20 seconds a lap. It depends. Oh, someone's gone off there. Was that Spork? Maybe off at the first corner. He's potentially going to be out of the race.
Yeah, huge crash. I don't think there's really coming back from that at all. There he is, the reigning champion, the Flying Dutchman Colin Spork, out of this race at the end of lap 1. Huge news, but the show must go on. Mitchie Hoyer in hot pursuit of the 2 Ferraris. Yani Simchitch trying to recover from a poor start. It's an absolute world of dreams, though, for the RHGs. Liam Duval, Adam Maguire flying out in front. But Rankfist doing his best to stay within that 0.7 DRS margin. While it's not overly important for getting moves done, Cam, it might be important in keeping the Super Venturi driver in the mix.
Well, yes, certainly a very hectic start there. We've got Liam Duval leading the way, Adam Maguire in behind, followed by Rankfist, Simchitch, then the 2 Ferraris rounding out the top 6. Siebel getting past Hoyer there at the start. Lartelu, Denahan and Andre round out the top 10 before we see Yannick Brock here for Virtual Drivers by TX3. A little bit of a gap starting to form behind Brock, with Bradshaw coming in behind. Bradshaw's actually getting overtaken there. Is that Peter Berlak? Yes, it is. 2015 world champion getting back up another position. Oh, Bradshaw goes for a spin at the front corner. A lot of chaos. So many cars in behind. That is a big pile up. This is terrible scenes. But we're going to be losing a lot of drivers from this race.
Yeah, indeed so. Bradshaw is out and becomes our second DNF. I'm sure there's going to be more names to join the mix over the debris as well, for good measure. Back to the front, absolutely, I don't really know what the word is, incredible, magnificent, not really the sort of adjective you want to use, but yeah, well, that was something, let's put it that way. We saw a similar thing at the beginning of the Academy race, and unfortunately, one crash has spiraled into a big chain reaction here in the World Championship. Huge stuff, and plenty of big names out already. Oldenmain get into the pit lane. I think the burst car was the one that initially sort of sparked that with a bit of a spin, and then it was just downhill from there.
That is such a shame. And that is what happens, unfortunately, when you have cars, basically a big pack, and a car sort of nearer the front. Crashes, unfortunately, as we're getting. Is that Simchitch making a move? Is that also the first lap of DRS? Yes, it is. And we're going to get the Ferrari coming through as well. Dennis Jordan, of course, trying to follow Simchitch through. Rankfist not really defending that at all. Lets them both go. And that just shows you how easy it is to make the overtake when you want to use that overtake button, but they can't do that every single lap, otherwise you'll run out of battery, and then you have to end up saving basically and having some slower laps. So definitely an interesting move for Simchitch. That's an important one. Now you can chase after RHG.
Yeah, but, well, it's about 3 laps too late. If he did lose it on the first lap, he wanted to get it back on the opening lap, and did try really hard to get that done, but now a lot of damage has been done for Yani Simchitch, and his pursuit of RHG has gone from being right next to them, essentially, on the run into turn number 1, to now being 2 seconds behind them on lap 4 of 70. Huge mountain to climb for Yani Simchitch if he wants to claw his way back into the race, but if anyone can do it, Simchitch can, and still a long road ahead. But yeah, especially at a circuit like Gilles Villeneuve, where a lot of it is spent sort of flat out. It is a fast and flowing circuit. While there's not many high-speed corners, there's not any high-speed corners at all, you know, there is still quite a good portion of it spent at full throttle, which means that you are sort of prone to using your energy deployment a little bit more, and just an added variable to throw into the mix of these drivers if they've got to balance the hybrid deployment. But the RHG boys in formation out in front, Adam Maguire staying at arm's length back of Duval within the DRS range, using each other to pull each other away. However, Simchitch on that last lap has just pulled in about 3/10 on the 2 RHG cars.
Yeah, purple lap, but the issue is that is he burning too much push past to get up to them? However, when he does get up to them, he'll then have to slip through the DRS potentially to save a little bit. Certainly one of those things that ebbs and flows, but RHG have a stronghold on this race as it stands. But it also now depends on the strategy and how they want to play it. Is anyone going to go for the force stop? Are they going to go for some early pit stops? The issue is right now is there's such a trade of cars, where do you come out? There is actually a bit of a gap behind Hakimi there, in between Hakimi and Mazidis, so maybe you'll be able to come out in there, but who knows how everything is going to play out, as we are still seeing some close battles inside this top 10.
We are indeed exactly what we expected from the World Championship, guys. Michi Hoyer losing a place in the opening moments, but stuck behind, not really stuck behind, but behind the Ferrari of Alex Siebel, who himself is trying to make some stead on Jan Rankfist, who had a sensational start, and then the Christopage of Simchitch and Jordan saw him drop to 5th. Now Siebel is trying to replicate that success, but to no avail so far. Lap 6 of 70 so far, and still in that settling in phase for a lot of these guys. And at the moment, I think we've sort of just reached a stalemate. Drivers are saving tyres and not really too keen on closing gaps and things, or going for moves, because, well, the more you fight, the more you burn your tyres, and the more you burn your tyres, the lower down you are going to be come the checkered flag. So yeah, still plenty to unpack, of course, but it's just a race of attrition and a really big conservation race.
Yeah, let's try and see what happens. Unfortunately, this is not going to be a nice watch, but we should have a replay. It's going to be Janos Brakshock coming down this long back straight. He's going to have the car of, was it Peter Burlak, I think was at the time, getting past him. But then the issue, of course, is not going to be the overtake, but what happens just after that. Brakshock comes in. Is he actually hit? Oh. Yes, he is hit. The valet car hits the back of him, and oh, this is not going to be nice. Sideways on the racing line. TX3 goes round, ground effect comes in, and then all the cars behind, to be fair, just couldn't do anything about that at all.
Not even Spider-Man is reacting to that. No way. Yeah, you need superhuman senses to be able to predict that that's going to happen, and even that might not have helped you too much. If you slammed on the brakes, the car behind you would have smashed into the back of you. Nothing you can do, particularly with using the runoff. You can't do it. These cars are so low to the ground, and the sausage curbs on the runoff of that chicane, as you come at them at speed, as you jerk the steering wheel to avoid an incident, you're just going to send yourself flying, spin it round. And, yeah, not great, to say the least, and a small mistake on one of the drivers' parts, and it's ended quite a few of these guys' races, even if they are still driving. Yeah, then absolutely in no contention whatsoever. So a huge crash, unfortunate scenes, it must be said, but mistakes happen. It was a small mistake. It just had a huge knock-on effect because of how close everyone was towards each other.
Yeah, I hadn't appreciated that contact at the beginning. Here is Hakimi now behind Valeriano. I'm not sure which valet of Valeriano or Mazidis was the one that hit the back of Brakshock. You probably would assume Valeriano, because he's the one ahead, but certainly not the ideal situation for Valet there, unfortunately, as we're getting. Or is this going to be 3 wide down the back straight? Yannick Bock is trying to defend. He's got Burlak and he's got Andre in behind. Burlak's going to go to the outside. Bock's going to be a bit slow off the final apex because of that. Andre in behind. Oh, I think he went into the wall a little bit. But here comes Peter Burlak for Alpine round the outside of the King. That's going to be inside for turn 1. They squeeze together, but Burlak makes it through.
Nice move. He took the apex away and he took the inside for turn 2 for good measure. Peter Burlak now back inside the top 10, flying the flag for Alpine after Colin Sport's crash at the end of lap 1. Well, a fantastic move, it must be said. Bold, brave, brilliant, and most importantly, it was confident. He didn't doubt himself. He knew the space was there. He knew how late he could brake. And Burlak now back inside the top 10. So not the best of qualifying for him, of course, but he's making some good progress in the race. Next up is Jake Denahan. However, 2.4 seconds is a pretty big gap to close in a race that really you just want everyone in front of you to do the work for you.
Yeah, that's the issue when you have a style of racing like this, especially with the overtake button. When you have a gap like that, again, you can use it to bridge the gap, but then you're going to be relying on saving a little bit later on. So definitely it's a bit of a tricky situation. Here comes David Mrocek, absolutely steaming past the Visceral before the DRS even opens. It opens underneath that bridge quite a way down the straight. And yeah, he was already gone past there. So Visceral of Darius Andre was not defending that one at all. So Andre was looking at potentially a P10, is now in P13.
Yeah, well, plenty still going on in the opening moments of this race. We're approaching the end of the first 10 laps. Oh my word, Andre was so late on the brakes there into turn 1, nearly losing the rear end and still squirming. Not going to be doing his tyres any good, and it's always that positive feedback loop in a negative way. The the more you slide, like what we just saw there with Andre, the more your tires heat up, the more your tires heat up, the more you slide, blah, 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 until your tires are basically turned into cheese and you can't really do much with them at all. So you've got to be careful, like what we're talking about with Simchitch in qualifying. It's all about being a smooth driver, being committed and precise with your turning input, and also making sure that you're not scrubbing the tires unnecessarily, because yeah, it's so difficult to get the tires back into a normal temperature window, as Rankfist really struggling now in that fight for the back end of the top 10.
Yeah, because the way the tyres work as well is they're sort of like these thermal deck steps as such, and once you go down each step, you can't recover from it. So yeah, it's one of those things you always end up losing, and it's a bit of a bad cycle. So that's why you have to start the stint well in that first 5 laps and set the tone of how that snowball effect works. As you're mentioning, it's a very important one, and that's why you have to just look after the rear tyres a little bit more. Sometimes it's not about under pushing as such, it's just about not going over the limit. It's about using the full grip of the tyre and not sliding it, not going over the top and pushing. But we are still seeing these drivers actually push and overtake quite a lot, although one driver, as you're mentioning, has gone back a little bit, is Rankfist. He was up there in 3rd place on the first lap, now down to 8th place. He's lost almost 6 seconds to where Simchitch is now. Of course, was up there right to the front in Bahrain alongside Jake Dennehan, so he's definitely got some speed about him, but maybe just not in the best phase of his race so far.
Yeah, I mean, the initial getaway was so good, really impressive to get ahead of Simchitch, and even for a corner or so put some pressure on the RHGs or whatever. But since then it has just been backwards, maybe using too much push, the push to pass and the overtake to stay in front. Not entirely sure, but well, maybe just fighting too hard, the tyres have burnt themselves out, or he's just lost rhythm, or maybe even he just doesn't quite have the pace and consistency to match at this stage in the race. Matching each other though are the 2 RHG cars. Liam DeVal leads Adam Maguire, brilliant stuff out in front, and what they're doing incredibly well, Cam, is managing the gap back to Yani Simchitch. It's sort of reached a bit of a stalemate. I mean, Simchitch has just bridged it under 2 seconds, but still not close enough for Simchitch to do any real damage to the RAG cars. And the good thing that they are going to have, if/when the 3-time champion does close up, is they've got each other to fall back on. Simchitch is, I mean, he's got Hoyer there in 6th, but apart from that, he's all isolated by himself. The RAGs have got both cars to call upon in order to win this fight.
Yeah, they can work together, which is very good, and that's something that Simchitch he had in Bahrain with Mrochek, his teammate, right next to him. But last race, he was all on his own against the 2 Alpines and the 2 RAGs. This time around, he's got the 2 Ferraris behind as well. So it's the same situation with 3 teams in the top 5 as such, and Simchitch on his own. I guess Hoyer, his sister teammate, is in behind, but he's not sort of challenging Yani as such, but a bit more of Alex Siebel in the background. It does look like they might have gained just a little bit on the previous lap, Dennis Jordan and Yani Simchitch, but the issue is, as you say, RHG just managed to hold the gap.
Yeah, doing enough, I think, is the important thing. They don't want to, push too hard and build an unnecessary gap for no reason and just burn their tyres out. They want to just do enough. They want to get to the pit lane sequence doing the bare minimum, so much so that they can just chill and control this race and not have to worry too much or have any sudden drop-offs in pace. Because they got the race started off on the right foot. They were able to get away, control the front row of the grid. The carnage that ensued behind had nothing to do with them, and now they've sort of given themselves that nice threshold to work upon, so much so that it's down to Simchitch and down to Jordan and etc. to actively close the gap. So RHG, I think, are in a very, very strong position here. Of course, we still have a long way left to go in this race. Nowhere, not even 20% of the way through as of yet. So yeah, still plenty to come, and we could well see these 2 in 3 and 4 close them back down again. I just think that both mentally and on track, RAG are so phenomenally strong, and it also depends on how eager Dennis Jordan is to work with Simchitch to close that gap. Maybe Ferrari are just interested in getting the podium.
Yeah, there's no reason to directly battle at this moment in time. Simchitch isn't really gaining on Maguire, but he's also not losing. So it's not like Jordan needs to get past to chase after RAG. He can just sit there for now, save his battery, and especially with how close he is now, I reckon he's probably still at pretty much 100% battery, after the braking zones, and then just using it on the exit to make sure that you still have that regen effect at the next corner for the braking. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one for him in that situation because he's a little bit reliant on Yani's speed. And one thing that we've just seen there, so the gap has gone down to like 1.8 and then 1.9 through sector 1. But then when we get to the end of the lap, it'll go up to sort of 2 something. So maybe that's a little bit of difference, different part of the track where the two sort of different cars are set up for.
Yeah, indeed so. Or maybe it's just a case of trying to rein it in a little bit through the middle sector because, that's the sort of the most technical, the twisty bits of sorts, and well, that's maybe where you can make the most of saving your tyres ever so slightly, and maybe that's what Simchitch and Jordan want to be able to do. Who knows? But for sure, there are going to be different strengths at different points on the circuit. Right now, though, it seems that RAG have got enough around all of the corners here at the circuit. Gilles Villeneuve, bit of a fight here for 7th place. Jake Dennehan, our race 1 winner, pre-season championship winner as well, ducking and diving, trying to find a way through on the race clutch driver Tom Lartlew as they make up the back end of the top 10. They've also got Jan Rankfist for company, Petter Burlak in pursuit in the Alpine. Tom Lartlew, very, very impressive stuff, and it's nice to see him actually complete some good laps after not starting in Barcelona, up there in 7th place, despite the fact he's not used to these open wheel machineries. He's doing a very good job.
Yeah, great talent though for Alpine, of course, racing for their subsidiary Race Clutch in this championship and doing a very good job, as you say. Maybe a bit more used to the tin top stuff, but coming to the open wheel scene into FSR, he's certainly doing a good job. And yeah, we never got to see what he could do in Barcelona, and his teammates, Spork and Burlak, they were doing a great job. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is really a bit of a contender for some podiums later on in the season. He does have Jake Dennehan in behind, but he's been that way for quite a while. Dennehan's in a similar situation. He's sort of relying on Lartlew for his speed, because if he gets ahead, Lartlew's either going to come back or Dennehan's going to waste so much trying to catch up to Hoyer. But actually, is this going to be the moment for Dennehan? He's very close, coming down this back straight in towards the final chicane. Yes, it's going to be the moment. The NX27 driver down the inside makes up that position. Actually, that is the first pit stop, I think. Yeah, Race Clutch coming in, lap 15, a little bit earlier potentially, maybe leaning towards a 4-stop.
Yeah, potentially so. Tom Lartlew started on the hard compound tyres, and 15 laps is what we sort of tipped for the mediums, let alone the hard. So the fact that maybe they're choosing to go on this strategy or are forced to go on this strategy is something that we'll find out in many a lap time when things start to change. We'll see what tyres he does change onto. So far, I think it is just going to be another stint on the hards. But yeah, is looking more towards the idea of maybe a 4-stop could come into the mix as the race progresses, which I'll be honest, I didn't really expect many to do it. But again, we're only 1 pit stop in, so we'll wait and see what his pace looks like on this one, the longevity of those tyres. But it's no surprise, is it, that people are struggling on tyres. 36.5 degrees track temp. That is ridiculously high. So yeah, no surprise that, well, tyres already are causing a bit of an issue, because 15 laps on a set of hard compound tyres is not really something you'd see at any other track.
It was again overtake in the back there as well as that Burlak getting through on Grankfist. Yes, it is. Everyone else is continuing though. They're going to go to that sort of lap 20 mark-ish. For Lartlew, he still can 3-stop from there, but of course he's going to have to go even longer now on these next set of tyres to make up for pitting slightly earlier. But it's definitely potentially some undercut possibility. He is in a little bit of clean air as well as Andre Hakimi also coming into the pit lane now. That's opening up even more of a gap for Lartlew, so that is working out well. But look at this top 4. They are starting to close in as the tyres are starting to wet.
Here we go then. Simchitch and Jordan have been waiting a long time to get back into the rearview mirrors of the two RHG cars. Liam Duval and Adam Maguire set the pace early on and are now slightly struggling, it seems, or Simchitch and Jordan have just used what's left of the tyres as we approach the first set of pit stops for the top block, whether it's this lap, next lap, the lap after that, whatever it comes to be. Simchitch is now in striking range, and Dennis Jordan, I think, is just going to be licking his lips and waiting for an opportunity to get involved in this.
Certainly is. Simchitch is going to be loving this now. He's in that DRS range. That, of course, gains you instantly a couple of tenths a lap. And coming towards turn 1, actually, I thought Simchitch was getting a little bit closer. Maybe Maguire actually reacted with a bit more push to pass. But that's a bit wide there from Maguire in towards turn 1. that just shows you potentially starting to make some mistakes, which is also helping the way of Simchitch getting close. All these drivers are pretty much doing the same lap time. In fact, everyone in the top 9 is pretty much doing the same lap time within a couple of tenths of each other. So they are at that sort of tyre limited part of the race where they can't really go much faster as the grip just isn't there. But it's certainly going to open up some opportunities for potentially a cheeky undercut.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it is just going to be a game of chicken who pulls the trigger first, and also the knock-on effect of that, because if you come in earlier, you're going to have older tyres quicker, so you have to make sure that the undercut is going to work, but it is going to be so powerful with the track temp so high. It's not a case of stressing about getting your tyres up to temperature, doing a bit of weaving to make sure they're not stone cold, but throughout your outlap it's straight on the pace, maybe a corner or two to get them up to temp, and then you're off, and you need to make sure you utilize that fresh rubber. In the DRS now, Yani Simchitch blasts past Adam Maguire up in the second place because the RHG car pulls the trigger and is into the pit lane first. Another advantage of RHG is they can split the strategies down.
And that didn't work out well at all for Maguire, because when you come into the pit lane, you brake a lot later than you would for the chicane. But of course, because Yani was in front of him, Maguire would have had to brake, sort of lift off the brake, and then go back on it for the brake for the pit lane. So he would have lost a few tenths of a second there. So that was actually, obviously, I guess Simchitch didn't know that, but it actually worked out very well for Simchitch, because he's now on the back of Liam Duval, and that is slightly over. End of 17, so that's still in range of a 3-stop. But again, there'll be a couple of laps here or there they'll have to add on to a stint later on, potentially. Maguire, what is the undercut going to do? Where is he going to come out in traffic? It looks like he's going to be okay. He's got a few seconds up the way, and he's ahead of Valeriano. So this might actually work out okay. I reckon one of the top 3 needs to respond.
Yeah, indeed. So otherwise they do risk, obviously, the undercut from Maguire. That he was lucky to get that pocket, because a couple of seconds slower would have seen him behind the valet car of Valeriano. So yeah, he settled into a nice pocket. Fortunate to do that. Now we'll see who's going to come in from the top lot. Liam Duval, is he going to stay out? Is he going to come in? Into the pit lane comes Liam Duval, Simchitch and Jordan. No, Jordan stays out.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't have made sense for all 3 of them to come in. So obviously Jordan being the one behind, he can see what's happening. I think definitely a good idea for him to stay out. But Simchitch didn't have an option. He had to respond. And of course, Duval was going to cover as well. Let's see though, coming towards the line. Of course, a bit of a shorter run. You sort of miss turn 1 with the pit exit. Here comes Adam Maguire. Here comes Liam Duval. But Maguire is going to take the lead potentially side by side between the teammates. Contact between the teammates. And it's just about going to be Duval that holds on. Maguire is going to be fuming with that, having contact with his teammate.
That scared me. Wow, that came out of absolutely nowhere. Of course, side by side, Duval wanted to keep the race lead, Maguire wanted to nick it off him, and now we've somehow settled 1, 2 and 3 as we were. So maybe they're not as powerful as we once thought. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe the outlap wasn't that good for Maguire. What we do know is that he's not going to be too happy with nearly having his race thrown away with a bit of contact, because of how sensitive these open wheel cars are. One tap can very easily sort of do some damage to your front wing, your steering alignment, or even send you spearing off into the barrier altogether. So yeah, a close call there for RHG, and it's coming back to what I said in qualifying. Could it be a burden more than anything for them to have 2 cars in the mix? Dennis Jordan now peeling his way into pit lane. Now it's going to be a race against time to see where he settles in, which has to surely be behind these 3.
Yeah, look at Duval as well. He absolutely romped off, I'm sure, burning a lot of his battery to make sure that Jordan isn't going to do any sort of overcut or anything like that after. Of course, they would have lost some tenths with that contact, as the 3 of them are going to go past. But Jordan is going to have some speed on the outside there. Is he going to have the momentum up towards turn 3 to get Simchitch? No, not quite enough, but he goes 1 lap longer and basically didn't lose anything. So that was a smart thing for Jordan there. He'll have just slightly fresher tyres, a little bit more room to play with when we get to the 2nd and 3rd pit stops a little bit later on, but certainly tense times there at the top, as Siebel and Motrek have stayed out in behind. We've got Lartiu has actually got past Hoyer in this pit stop phase. Yeah,
indeed. So Lartiu doing a fantastic job there, now ahead of Michi Hoyer, who is in pursuit of the race clutch car. Very good stuff for Dennis Jordan. I think strategy-wise, he's put himself in a fantastic position going forward. As you say, that extra lap in pocket gives him more of a choice going forward. Oh, I'm interested in what Anna Maguire is going to do. We've got sort of 3 different strategies: a lap earlier on sequence, and then a lap later. Siebel, Jordan's teammate, is now into the pit lane. Same too with David Mrocek. Here comes Michi Hoyer. The power of DRS and hybrid deployment and slipstream is incredible. The speed that Hoyer just dispatched of last year, that was insane.
And that's why we've gone down to 1 DRS zone. But is Artu going to come back? Actually, no, getting close towards turn 1, but not enough to make an overtake. And here comes Hoyer back inside the top 5. And actually, there is Siebel in behind both of them. So Siebel lost effectively 2 places because of that strategy, but he is on the back of them. He'll be in that DRS zone, which is the crucial thing. Jake Dennehan not too far behind as well after his first round of pit stops. And Peter Berlak inside that top 9. Mrocek as well up inside the top 10 after struggling a little bit in the qualifying session. So yeah, interesting how these strategies are played out. Top 4, they got close, but now they've stayed in that same places. But the next 4 cars, they are all changing and they're all on the move.
Yeah, indeed. So it means that not all of our focus is going to be at the front of the field, which I am all here for, because great fights in the midfield continue and some crucial championship points up for offer as well. While we are only on round 3 of 9, each point counts in the grand scheme of things. How competitive things were. I mean, at the back end of 2022, Colin Spork and Alex Siebel were separated by only 3 points come the championship's end. So yeah, you've got to pick up points where you can. Here comes Siebel to the inside of last loop, just dispatches of him again in similar fashion. Can we take away the DRS zone altogether? Can we just have 0? Because it's far too easy, man.
Well, to be honest, we'll see what the admins think, because we do have quite a few straights on the tracks coming up. But of course, that is potentially the idea, and that's why it was trialled to go down to 1 shorter zone around here. Those things are always ever fluid with how long and how many zones there are around each track, and definitely a good choice because we're still getting plenty of overtakes in action, even with just that 1 zone. And just looking at that Latu sort of situation, he's already lost 2 seconds to Hoyer, just in a couple of laps of going in behind. He pitted early, but was that too early? Are his tyres already sort of at that phase of dropping off where he's losing a bit of time? It's certainly an interesting one, how that's going to work out. But Siebel now needs to catch up back to Hoyer into that top 5. A little bit further down though, Rankfist from P3 down to P15. He has just been tumbling down the way and not having the race that he would have wanted. He pit lap 17, it's already about 4 laps ago now or so. This is, I guess, just his pace today.
I'm interested to see if there's any sort of non-visible damages. Here comes Jake Dennehan as well, another driver to get past Tom Lartalou, who I do agree, I think, is struggling in terms of his tyres, coming in way too early. Maybe the lack of experience in open wheels costing him that. I don't know, but on a day like today, yeah, experience might well win out over some, or maybe there's more to come from Lartalou as the race progresses. But yeah, Jan Rankfist, yeah, I do feel sorry for him, because being up there in 3rd place at one point to now being 15th, sort of 20 laps later, is bizarre. Maybe the qualifying pace was just a lot better than his race pace today. Maybe I mean, again, it's a very peculiar race today with the dynamic of things, but I don't know. Surely you would expect to see that big of a drop off, especially a driver like Rankfist, who is very, very quick. I'll be curious to know if there was any sort of subtle damage on that car.
Yeah, I didn't see anything, but who knows? I'm already 24 seconds off the lead. That is, yeah, that's some big time loss. I'm sure Greg will want to sort that out for the next race. But back towards the front, and Dennis Jordan. He's following Simchitch behind, who once again has dropped off the top 2 a little bit, and not quite all over the back of them. Actually, on this lap, though, they have made some gains, but we go back to Peter Berlak, getting past Lartu. So Lartu now to the back of that sort of second train as such, down towards the latter end of the top 10. And he's going to be, struggling a little bit this race, I would assume. And if he is on that extra stop, having pitted so early, then that's just going to be even worse.
Indeed so, yeah, it's just going to have that knock-on effect. Getting word, of course, from YouTube chat that Jan Rankfist got damage on lap 1 and has now repaired it in the pit lane. So surely we should see a resurgence for Jan Rankfist. And yeah, so the damage initially cost him places, which is why we saw him towards the back end of the top 10, and then even more time spent in the pit lane to get it sorted, and now back to pace. This is on the back of the Valet and Visceral car of Valeriano and Darius Andre. Also, the Arnage driver of Hikimi not too far up the road as well. So a good little battle here for 12th place. But yeah, Cameras, we're about, what is this, about a third of the way through the race now. Still plenty to unpack, still more pit stops to come. And I'll be interested to see where Jan Rankfist can get back up to. Top 10 seems a little bit too far off, but maybe we could see him pick up a couple more places.
Yeah, points down to P20 as well now. Introduced last season, points going down a lot further. So this is still points. But yeah, it just depends how far up them that he can get. And I could say myself, I've driven the pro race a little bit earlier, the damage definitely costs you quite a bit of time, not just with the overall speed, but actually with the balance. Valeriano there gets past Andre, easy move there in towards the final chicane. But yeah, if you're struggling with the balance in that first stint, I can definitely see why. And of course, time lost then with the repairs. Andre comes towards turn number 1, can't get back past, as we're seeing Valeriano hold on to that one, but Andre definitely being very aggressive there, sliding and wiggling all over the place.
Yeah, got to be careful not to burn your tyres out. The visceral eSports driver, incredibly quick, both in tin tops and in open wheels, of course. We're proving that here today, but does have to be careful. Again, don't want to be risking too much too early and burning out your tyres far too quickly, though it must be said the competitiveness of this grid is absolutely sensational. Loving every second of the racing in the Formula SimRacing 2023 VCO World Championship. It's on the up and so many big names have joined us, and well, the grid has just got even closer, which I didn't think was possible, but it's been amazing. And still in Montreal, plenty to come. Darius Andre trying to pick his way through. There was a slow exit off the hairpin. It's probably the last thing you want, because look at Valeriano. He's probably gapped him by, I want to say, at least a car length and a half going onto the back straight.
Yeah, definitely not the fastest point of the race for Darius Andre. He's actually getting granked now, coming up towards behind. And there goes the Super Venturi into the final chicane as the Visceral goes down. Visceral actually comes back here. Darius Andre wiggly on the exit, managed to get down, I'm sure, using a lot of the overtake button, but not enough as Rankfist holds onto that one, gets himself up into P14. And yeah, Rankfist can get to P12, but that jump to P11, I think, might be a little bit too much.
Yeah, I think I would be inclined to agree. Again, it's the long race. Same bad luck that happened to him could also happen to other people. So, again, let's just wait and see how the race develops. Plenty of variables still to come into the mix. Plenty of redeeming factors still to come. Back at the front, though, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, as they have been for the entire race, despite a bit of contact between the two RFG cars of Liam Deval and Adam Maguire, still in the DRS range. And I think that the crunch point is, as soon as we get close to a pit lane sequence, as Adam Maguire on the limit off the exit of the final chicane, that's really where we're going to start to see these drivers push. Right now, they're all, single file, sort of not necessarily working with each other, but not necessarily pushing each other, saving their tyres, saving their deployment, all for sort of that crucial pit lane sequence where you can really then start to make some big gains on in getting some good track position.
So of course you have to use 2 compounds of tyres. We've only seen the hard compounds being run pretty much from everyone. We have at the moment Andre and Pascal out on the mediums, and also at the start of the race pretty much everyone was on the hards. At some point though, you've got to use the mediums, but are you going to wait for the final stint to use that, or are you going to use it maybe in that third stint? It's going to be an interesting one. Of course, you don't really want to just do the same as everyone around you, because then you've got to overtake them on pure pace and on track, whereas with a bit of strategy that might make it a little bit easier. So I do wonder if some teams might try that mediums in the next stint coming up.
Maybe so. Again, I think one that would maybe consider it as RAG, because they've got both cars to use. So maybe putting Maguire or Deval, whoever they want to go with potentially, if they do opt for it, to go on the mediums at a different stage and be a little bit quicker and utilise that pace more. Maybe Deval, because he's ahead and can get the track position and go with it. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it would be interesting to maybe plomp the medium stint at the end of the second, and then just have a quick middle stint and then go back to the hards for the end. But again, we don't know what's going through the brains of all of the strategists and drivers at each of the teams. Yeah, I don't know. I think a fast medium stint would probably be beneficial, particularly if you're sort of locked in a fight like this, because it gives you time to maybe get ahead, maybe gain some places in said train, and then sort of control it once you go back into the hards, but I can also see the benefits of just doing what is maybe normal, what most people would do, which is to be whacking on the mediums right at the end of the race, because it's light, the car's fast, then faster tyres, then that dash to the finish. So yeah, there's pros and cons to both. I think it sort of maybe Dennis Jordan towards the back end of this train could also try it, because through the pit lane sequence so far, he's not quite had enough to really make a dent on Simchitch, Maguire or Duval. So maybe the Ferrari car is the one to try something a bit different.
Yeah, potentially. Although actually, this Yani Simchitch coming for a move towards turn 1. He goes to the outside. That's going to be tricky between the two of them. Backs out of that one. But certainly, that was an opportunity. And he's starting to show that he wants to get past. But once again, RHG hold on to P1 and 2, and they were in P1 and 2 in Barcelona for a long time, and once again in Montreal they're also P1 and 2, so they have they've got themselves in a good position. They didn't get the win last time, but can they work together to try and hold on? The good thing for Duval, of course, is he's got his teammate in behind. He can use him as a bit of a barrier, and as it stands, Maguire there was able to defend.
Yeah, he was able to hang on. Good attempt from Yani Simchitch, but not quite good enough to see him through. Outside of turn 1 is always difficult, particularly when you might not have the tyre grip. A little bit wide from Maguire, a little bit of a slide off the exit as well. If Simchitch can put his foot down efficiently, we could see a bit of a change, though Maguire's been able to build up speed really nicely. Simchitch is close though, and well within the DRS detection range. Is he going to close the gap enough? Defensive goes Maguire. Outside line now for Simchitch. It's going to be very difficult. They come to contact. Oh my word! Simchitch sent off. Maguire continues on. Dennis Jordan might be able to find a way through. Yani Simchitch somehow is taking the lead. There is no way he's going to keep that. Maguire is furious. They come to contact into the braking zone. Here comes Dennis Jordan as well to the inside.
Oh my god, so yeah, Yani gave back the place to Duval, but is he going to give it back to Maguire? Let's find out. Maguire's obviously not too happy about this. Coming down the inside of turn 3, I think, yes, Simchitch is going to let him go there. So places have been reverted. Dennis tried to be opportunistic and get his Ferrari up there. That would have complicated things, because then Yani would have effectively had to lose 2 places to give it back. But either way, it's all worked out now, but it definitely shows these drivers are getting their elbows out. And I'd like to see that one again, because Yani was already hard left on the track, so I wonder if Maguire squeezed him onto that little bit of grass, or if it was just naturally them both coming together. Definitely a potential crash though.
Indeed, so at that speed, these cars are so sensitive, things can so quickly go wrong, and we might well see a repeat of it here if one of them doesn't get a good exit. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much more Yani could have done. He was on the left. It's just one of those strange things. A bit of movement naturally under braking, trying to squeeze your opponent is always going to happen. But well, I think they are very lucky to have escaped and gotten away scot-free with how they did, because yeah, the way Yani bailed and rejoined the circuit maybe could have caused contact. If Maguire or Yani had spun, again, could have caused contact. And as we saw earlier on, the knock-on effect of one driver getting it drastically wrong has got big consequences for those around them. So yeah, I'm glad we're talking in hypotheticals here, because, well, it's still Duval, Maguire, Simchitch and Jordan 1, 2, 3 and 4 as they were.
Definitely the tension between the drivers though, you can feel it. And Maguire would have not be happy, because of course he was the one leading the way in Barcelona. He was one who had the potential win on the cards, but just a couple laps ago Simchitch got past him, and this time defending a little bit harder than he could do that time around. But Simchitch is staying close, but RHG, they are just so much faster. Looking at the top speeds, RHG are definitely slower, therefore I assume they have more wing, and that makes sense because they seem to be a little bit faster in the first couple of sectors, and then it's when we get to the straights that Simchitch starts to come back. Is this going to be the run though up towards this bridge where the DRS is so late down the way? But Maguire has the DRS himself. He defends to the inside, Simchitch to the outside. That won't be an overtaking opportunity. That'll be to try and slow Maguire down, but he's actually misjudged that. Here comes Dennis Jordan, I'm sure, down the front straight away to try and come back in towards turn 1. Is he going to send it down the inside? Not quite that time. Yani was a little bit lucky there.
Yeah, he was, and somehow, despite that, they've all managed to continue as they have been for the last 32 laps of racing action. It's been insane. The standard of racing has been another level. And Dennis Jordan, well, I'll be honest, I think that was a missed opportunity for him not to capitalise there. But I think in the mind of the Ferrari driver, he knows that Simchitch is slightly quicker and is going to be the one to drive the charge past the RHGs. And there's no point them being sort of as independents in this battle with no teammates. There's no point them getting into their own little squabble and fighting and allowing the RHG cars to get in front. But again, that's what, 2 close calls in the span of 3 laps. The tension is very, very high. And well, yeah, it's gloves off race, and I'm really enjoying this, and we've still got over half it left to go.
And we have some drivers potentially making inroads behind. With all this batting, Hoyer and Siebel aren't too far behind. The car immediately behind is Robin Panzer. He's 1 lap down, but look a little bit further back and we have the burst and Ferrari potentially coming back into this window. And I think for Jordan, one reason as well why he wouldn't have overtaken there is because he knows that Maguire and Simchitch are getting quite tense. He doesn't want to get involved in that. They can go and crash themselves, and then Jordan can get the easier position. And also, for now, it doesn't really make sense. He can see the leader, and he's just only over a second behind Duval in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, certainly Hoyer there is making some moves faster than Dennis Jordan on that previous lap. So yeah, I think we are going to see potentially a big fight for the lead when we get in that final sort of 10-20 lap space.
Absolutely. Mitchie Hoyer as well is driving a really good race up there in 5th, impressing a lot after missing Barcelona. And, well, impressive stuff. He is in pursuit, of course, from Alex Siebel. Jake Dennehan not a million miles away behind either, so look to see if this battle starts to develop. But it must be said that Mitchie Hoyer has had a bit of a fluctuation in form over the course of last year and stuff. I mean, he's a multiple-time race winner in the FSR World Championship, so he's not a slow driver by any means, but it's nice to see him up there still doing quite well and showing that he's still got it in 5th place in this race. And, well, hopefully he can sort of use this as a stepping stone to build his confidence and find some more good form over the course of the season as well.
And here comes Simchitch in towards turn 1, makes a late move, but Maguire chops him off. Closes that door, although that is kind of natural with the kink that you get there in turn 1, but definitely some aggressive defense here from Maguire, who's really trying to work on with this. And I wonder at the front, surely with the amount of battling they've done, surely Duval will be able to pull away a little bit. But I just wonder if Duval's sort of judging his pace by the guys behind, or maybe he's just the slower one out of this top 4. So hard situation to read right now, but I definitely think Yani's a little bit faster overall, considering how close he can stay. But then, of course, he does have the Citroen in the DRS, so it's definitely an intriguing situation. Any one of these 4 drivers could be winning this race a little bit later.
Oh, I think so. It is still entirely up for grabs. I think a little bit of variation in the strategy could throw a spanner into the works as well. Remember, Adam Maguire came in a lap earlier at the last pit stop, and Dennis Jordan went a lap later, so a bit of fluctuation there. Simchitch and Duval came in on the same lap, so they're the ones sort of in the middle ground. Only Simchitch very late on the brakes through the final chicane. Not the best of runs coming out with it. Same too for Jordan, and also the car in the background as well. Bit of a wibble and a wobble, but nothing major. Not burying themselves into the barrier. Getting so close through turn 2. The Constantina effect. Same to Dennis Jordan to Simchitch. They are pushing like crazy, still keeping within the confines of their tyres' capability. I think it is just going to be a case of if any of these 4 blink and make a mistake, because that is going to be the difference. All 4 of them have been nearly faultless up until this point.
And the other Burst eSport next view car of David Mrocek making some inroads in this race, as we were mentioning earlier, struggled a little bit in that qualifying session, has made some places up, now into 9th place, and right behind Petter Burlak, who in turn is not too far behind Jake Dennehan. Dennehan and Mrocek on that podium in the first race of the season, but now in 7th and 9th place today here in Canada, but certainly not too bad actually for Mrocek. Only 8 and a bit seconds off the lead after everything that has happened. And you can actually see just up ahead, that is the massive train that they are all in. So maybe these guys could actually have a shout of a podium today if things happen up ahead. And Simchitch has got past. Simchitch has got past Maguire into that final chicane, and now he's going to be on a rampage. He's going to try and get both of the RHG cars. He wants that lead, but who is going to be the most aggressive with the overtake button? Who's going to be most aggressive with their car positioning as well?
indeed. So I think Simchitch has been waiting a long time for an opportunity like this. Finally found a way through on Maguire. He's not going to want to dilly-dally around and wait for Maguire to build up the courage to go for a counter-attack. Also, this fight here between Rodger and Peter Burlak, who has now cemented himself well and truly inside the top 10, pushing like crazy to find his way past the Burst eSports driver. But we are closing in on the second phase of pit stops. Could that be the catalyst for this bit of action? Simchitch wanting to put his best foot forward before eventually coming into the pit lane. 3/4 of a second between him and the race leader Liam Deval at the most recent sector split. Gavin Monche and Peter Burlak still fighting over 8th place as well. There are plenty of storylines throughout this race.
Moche doing a good job up there past Burlak, who is doing a solid race, but I'm sure he would want to be higher, of course, as is that now for the race lead. Yani Simchitch has got through 2 RHEs, and also they're slowing down potentially because Jordan has got past Maguire as RHE actually come into the pit lane. Is that? Yeah, Maguire already into the pit lane, lap 36. This is a little bit early. And he's going to be struggling later when he gets to the mediums at some point. It's probably going to be a longer medium stint than he would have wanted, but it's all changed up towards the front. Simchitch leads Deval, leads Jordan, and now Hoyer and Seaby round up the top 5.
There is Adam Maguire leaving the pit lane. Is another set of hards? Indeed it is. So if he wants the same medium stint length as everyone else, he's going to have to go a little bit longer on this set. But once again, trying the undercut if he can, to maybe find himself through. Simchitch now has got to put the lap of his life in and then manage to stay in front. Deval also wants to stay in control of this race after leading it since the start of it from pole position. Led every lap so far, and now Yani Simchitch has really sort of caused a bit of an upset. That sat dormant for quite a while, then really recently managed to make some inroads. Are we going to see any of the top 3 come into the pit lane? I'm assuming it's going to be Simchitch and Deval going off the pattern of the first stint. Are any of these 3 going to try and go onto the mediums as well? I think, if anyone, it's probably going to be Simchitch, as there goes Dennis Jordan to the inside. They're going to fight for position into the pit lane. Deval comes in, Simchitch comes in, Dennis Jordan stays out. And, well, it's exactly as we expected.
He's getting Hoyer and someone else coming into the pit lane as well. Definitely that second round time. Simchitch is at the hards. He goes again. Has to wait slightly for his teammate. That is not ideal. He gets out ahead of Deval still, but where is Maguire? Simchitch used a lot of push to pass on that lap. He's trying to pull away, and he might have this actually. Round the outside, it's going to be close between them. Actually, it's not even close at all. Maguire actually lost out there by going a lap earlier. So not only is he in a worse tyre situation now, but he lost 2 places and lost some time really. So that is not really working too well for him. But Simchitch now leads the way from Deval on track for the first time this race, really, in how the strategy's worked out, and now he's going to try and pull away. But we do know Deval is going to be pushing hard to get this back.
He is indeed. They've also got Yannick Bot to contend with the virtual drivers by TX3, practically pushing him through the chicane. Is Liam Deval putting a ton of pressure on to the 3-time champion, looking for his second race win of the season to extend the margin. A bit of a send there from Deval. He finds the gap. Simchitch eventually gives him the space. Bit of contact between the 2 of them, and now Adam Maguire's joined the fight, sandwiched between the 2 RHGs, and now Yani Simchitch might well be in trouble. Back into the slipstream, pulling out to the left-hand side, using whatever little bit of overtake he's got left. Doesn't even need the DRS. He's back in front, pulls back over to the inside. Deval fills the space. Final chicane, and Deval stays ahead. This is great news for Dennis Jordan.
Certainly is. Deval defending for his life. Well, that was some terrible racing into the hairpin. Absolutely horrific scenes there. Way too late on the brakes and pushing wide. And Dennis Jordan goes to the lead. So not only has he screwed himself, but he screwed all of them. Dennis Jordan goes longer on the tyres and now has the track position as well. Deval really not making the best racecraft decisions there, and it's cost all of them, unfortunately. Simchitch in that 3rd place now, dropping off the back, and he's got Maguire all over him. Potentially some damage on some of these cars as well, but Jordan is going to be loving it.
He is going to be laughing. He is going to be thrilled with the strategy department. The fact he's gone that lap later, Deval so committed. He is fighting with desperation. Not the best of decisions this time last lap. Is he going to replicate that same mistake and go for the move on Jordan? Not quite. Is he battling some damage? Jordan now is in control. Sat there in 4th place for so long, and now he's kickstarted the second half of this Canadian Grand Prix in spectacular fashion. His teammate Alex Siebel as well has been having a quiet race. He comes into the pit lane. Defensive goes Jordan. He wants to keep this race lead. Here comes Duval to the outside. He's late on the brakes. Has he done it?
Lord.
Around the outside of the final chicane. Great stuff.
Wow. To be fair to him, after that dodgy move to the hairpin, he brings it back and does a clean overtake round the outside of the chicane. You never see that. Jordan gave him the space, to be fair, but Duval made it stick. Amazing racing here at the front in Montreal. And also look on the back, Michi Hoyer is making this a top 5 battle, and this is awesome to see. We've got 3 teams, or technically 4 constructors, because Hoyer's not a direct teammate in the Constructors Championship either. So awesome to see all these different cars up the front.
Absolutely. Oh my word. This is golden. Yeah, I'm smiling from ear to ear. This is what we love to see. This is what FSR is bringing for the 2023 VSO World Championship, VCO, sorry, I should say, World Championship. Adam Maguire making up the sort of the back end of this contingent. Well, it's not the back end anymore because Chioya, as Cam said, has joined the mix. Loving this. Also, Alex Siebel, a quiet race, as I say, going slightly longer on strategy. Look out for him sort of in the final 15-20 laps of this race. He might be able to make some good inroads as well. But yeah, well, bring it on. I love races like this where you've got the strategy is insane and the on-track racing is insane as well. So good. So many different possibilities can happen as well, and it all comes down to how good these drivers are out on track.
And the thing is, after us talking about the tyre compounds, they're all on the hard tyres. They've done 3 in a row on the hards, which means everyone will have to choose the mediums for the final stint. But of course, with where they've pitted and whatnot, we know Dennis goes a lap later often, so there's going to be some difficult changes. But it's now really just a game of how early do you want to pit to go onto those mediums, because we've seen them struggling on the tyres on the hards. Of course, the mediums will be even worse because they're a softer compound. So yeah, it's now going to be some tactical games. So you want to get your track position right, and that is what Duval's trying to do at the front. He's trying to pull the gap once again. He's trying to get out that DRS window, but I think Jordan was just about inside that 0.7. Yes, he is once again. But Hoyer's now on the back. This is going to be getting very interesting for Maguire, having to defend from the back of this top 5 as well. Yeah,
I think Maguire was counting on the fact that he would make up the rear of this, and look at that, he's under a bit of pressure. Michi Hoyer trying to find an avenue through. A bit of a thought of a defensive move there from Maguire, so definitely feeling the pressure as the dust gets kicked up in the background. Dennis Jordan, though, needs some good pace because Duval is showing some very promising lap times over the sausage curb there for Jordan. Really, really aggressive. Duval wants to use this pace, and Jordan is not letting him get away. You can see they are ever so slightly quicker than Simchitch, Maguire and Hoyer, and are slightly pulling away. I don't know, does Jordan want the race lead back, or does he want to maybe utilise this pace as best as possible? Or does Duval want to back everyone up to keep Maguire in the mix? I'm not entirely sure what the motives are here. All I do know is that the top 2 are lightning quick.
Yeah, what Jordan needs to do now is not let Duval get away, basically. If he gets a 1-2 second leads, then yeah, that's going to be difficult to come back from. So they have to go with him now. Interesting that Simchitch hasn't quite kept up with Jordan by a couple of tenths. I'm sure he would want to be a little bit closer, another car length or so closer. But now into the hairpin once again. We're also getting, is that Siebel now trying to get on the back? This could be a 6-way battle up towards the front. This is awesome to see here. Canada well over halfway into the race now, and is getting to that crunch time, of course. Jordan following Duval for the lead, Maguire following Simchitch for 3rd place, and we now have Siebel and Hoyer following all of them.
We do indeed, and bring it on, absolutely. I think Siebel, as I say, has been doing a very, very long-term strategy to bring himself back into the mix. Ferrari have nailed the strategy today. Jukka-Pekka Lalu for Super Venturi on the back of Stavros Muzeidis. Also got Tom Oldenmenger for company to the back end of those that are still in contention in this race. Plenty of DNFs due to some very unfortunate incidents as the race progressed. That very massive one at the final chicane. However, the back end though, these are like the handouts in terms of points all the way down to P20. So if you can sort of get a place up or so, you can almost sort of double your points haul with only a couple of positions. I mean, if Olderman can get past Lally, he goes from 1 to 2, which is only 1 point, but still double what you would get anyway. So massive championship points on offer in terms of maybe some important margins to be closed. Yani Rankfist on a recovery as well after getting some damage at the end of lap 1. He finds himself P13. However, Hikimi is keeping him honest. So while the fights to the front has been really, really good, again, we've had our fair share of midfield battles as well.
Yeah, it's been an awesome race here at the front, although in behind it's been absolute carnage, to be honest. We're up to only 21 drivers remaining. Robin Panzer just shy of being lapped after that pit stop sequence. He has basically the only person on track without a point as it stands. For the people behind him, Van Den Eek, Pascal, Callas, Prosciutto, Jux, Schroeter, Brackshock Sport, all of them DNF on this race, unfortunately. That is how it's gone. But back towards the front, and the drivers who are still out and bringing the entertainment for us this evening. The top two are starting to pull away. Simchitch hasn't gone with Jordan. He's out of that DRS zone and almost out of the slipstream reach too.
Yeah, indeed so. He needs to be careful, very, very careful indeed. Goes behind. Look at that, Yani Simchitch. Wow. I mean, it's sensational to see the pace of Jordan. Him and Duel are just running away with things. So Simchitch needs a really good run of form over the course of the next couple laps to stay in contention with things. Adam Maguire, Michi Hoy, Alex Siebel all need to be in on the bit as well to stay with it. But let's wait and see what that pace is like on those medium compound tyres. All of them behind with DRS. But Simchitch without it versus Dennis Jordan, that is a huge deficit now and might well exaggerate itself over the laps to come, because Liam Duel and Dennis Jordan are essentially free to run away.
This is going to be a very intriguing situation. We actually have, is that some blue flag traffic just up ahead of Duel as well? Obviously, they should be getting out of the way, but can always cost a couple of tenths here and there, which are ever so important. I think that is Panzer, who they did lap a little bit early. He's got to get out of the way of about 6 cars coming through. The top 2 get through, and now we have Simchitch coming through there as well. Hoyer is now definitely well within reach of Maguire too. So that was so close there on the exit for Yani Simchitch. Manages to hold on to that one though, and I think in all of that, Simchitch might be slightly closer actually to Dennis Jordan, maybe by a car length or so. And definitely not the easiest situation there for Panzer with all these drivers coming through at the tightest and trickiest part of the track.
Oh yeah, it's never ideal to see, but the battling that we've got is very ideal to see. Alex Siebel is well and truly in the mix. Jake Dennehan is, what, 2 seconds off the back with how hard these guys fight? Yeah, maybe. Simchitch still not benefiting off DRS of Dennis Jordan down that casino straight. So still progress to be made for Simchitch. The start of the 3rd stint now this has not been great for the 3-time champion, but he's still there, and if Jordan sort of puts an offensive onto Liam Duel, expect Simchitch to close the gap still, because, well, we've still got 6 cars well and truly in contention for, at the very least, a podium in this race. And with, what is that, 24 laps left to go, we've got that stint and a half in terms of tyres, and, well, we've also got the medium tyres to come. We've seen what they're like on the hards. Now we get to eventually start to see what they're like on the mediums, how well they can control the deck, and how well they can race with that as well, because right now track position doesn't mean too much. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It's really when we start getting into those final 5-10 laps that people are going to start sending some very interesting moves to make those do or die moments. But, well, right now we've got 5 cars nose to tail, and I'm absolutely loving every second of it.
You know, how much time you can gain on strategy? I mean, theoretically, Hoyer probably could actually still win this. Does a nice bit of strategy. He's actually getting quite close there. Is this going to be a move on the R8G driver in towards the final chicane? Massive defence there from Maguire, but Hoyer manages to get the track position up the inside there of the final chicane, and Maguire goes back once again into the front. Dennis Jordan has swapped around as well. He's got ahead of Liam Duel, so both R8Gs losing a place there, and that could be crucial potentially if they can't come back. Maguire has been going backwards so far this stint for various reasons, and now Dennis Jordan regains that lead and took after the pit stop.
He does indeed. Great move from the Ferrari driver. Now it's all about controlling it. Liam Duel now might well be in a position to launch a counter-attack, but they've got to be careful because Yani Simchitch is there, and there's one driver you do not want to give nice handout opportunities to, and it is going to be Yani Simchitch. So, yeah, important laps ahead for the Ferrari and R8G drivers, but 3 different teams inside the top 3 and technically 4 within inside the top 4, if you count Michi Hoyer being a slightly different variation at burst. They managed to lap the Super Venturi driver of Yukapeka Lalu, all doing it nice and cleanly because Lalu says, you know what, lads, off you go. He takes a nice wide line going through the hairpin, set them all through, and not getting involved in this fight, which, yeah, probably the best idea for Lalu.
I am interested with the case of Maguire. He's lost a place now to Alex Siebel. Is he really struggling this much on tyres? Because if so, he can't pick just yet. It's way too early for the mediums. It's definitely an interesting one, how he's gone backwards. I do wonder if there is some damage on some of these cars, though. We have seen a fair bit of contact and body rubbing between some of these drivers towards the front, so that could potentially always be a case. Or maybe he's just struggling with the tyres. It's yeah, not the easiest track, as we mentioned before, as we are on the softer end of the tyre compound, a little bit further back, and these drivers are just ahead. It's a battle for P18, but it's also a battle just ahead of Dennis Jordan, who is coming up behind.
Indeed so. Well, still so much impact. I mean, just look at the track map in the bottom right. Look at how densely packed it is. Obviously, it's not all full position, but it's very densely packed inside that top 9 really are those that are incredibly close together, with Tom Oldenmenger trying to move his way past Stavros Muzeidis. This is the back end of the race, P18 versus P19. Oldenmenger now pulling up to the right hand side, trying to find a way through. Muzeidis eventually concedes, gives him the space. Oldenmenger is through the up and under, though. Bit of contact there from the valet driver, touching the rear end of the burst eSports Complexity car. Now they get to go side by side again because Muzeidis puts the car on the inside. Oldenmenger tries to hang it round, gets given a little bit of space. However, there you go. There's our top 4. Dennis Jordan finding a very swift way through past Oldenmenger, who is being very, very nice and allowing all of them through before Muzeidis does.
But that was probably the worst place for Tom to get that traffic, and that's why he was fighting so far to get past Muzeidis, because he basically had to stop there to let all those drivers through. It would have been very awkward to try and slot back in the middle, and that of course ruins their battle. But that is the way of the blue flags. Muzeidis gets out of the way there of Dennis Jordan. As of course we're seeing, is that actually a bit of a gap now being formed? It is. Dennis Jordan's got ahead of Duval. Duval's lost some time there, and here comes Simchitch back up towards the RH driver. They had a massive battle a couple of laps to go, and now that is going to continue on lap 49. We've got just about 20 or so laps to go, and here comes Simchitch. That is a huge run that he's got, and he's going to be getting that move very. Duval had the DRS, but it doesn't matter because Simchitch seems to have a lot of top speed today, at least enough to hold off from the RHG drives. But here comes Liam Duval back towards turn number 1. He's going to potentially flick to the left. No, he's not. He's going to sit in behind and keep that third place.
Yeah. The scary thing is seeing Simchitch get it slowed down from that speed because of how late he's braking for that final chicane, because it's not necessarily a slow chicane. You can carry quite a bit of speed through. So Simchitch is very, very fast in the straight line when you couple everything together. And then when he slams on the brakes, you think he's not getting stopped, or at least I do. And then he chucks over the switch curbs. How he keeps it together, I do not know. But he's up now into second place. He's got to be careful though, because 1.6 seconds to Dennis Jordan is an advantage that you do not want to give him, particularly when the Ferrari driver has got a lap in hand that he can use to better his medium stint, because, well, he's going to have 1 lap less before he hits a massive cliff of tyre deg than everyone else, and that gives him an extra lap that he can sort of push with and manage the gap. 1.7 seconds in a race as close as this, I mean, I don't want to call it too early, but Dennis Jordan is in a very strong position right now.
Yeah, he certainly is, especially with the gap that he's got now. He can let them pit 1 lap earlier again and avoid any sort of undercut. And we've already seen it's actually the overcut that seems to be strong around here, ironically. Maybe that's just because of the battling that we saw as well. We haven't really seen a clean undercut so far. Here's Muzeidis letting through a couple of the drivers. Is Hoyer going to squeeze through as well? Yes, he is down the inside. Hoyer's coming for this podium. I tell you what, he was sat behind the whole of the first couple of stints. But as we get towards this latter part of the race, he is in a big, big shout of even, the race win if some things happen ahead too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not going to take much for things to bring Michi Hoyer into contention. A podium is definitely on the cards, particularly if Duval has a bit of an issue. It is a shame that RHG was so dominant during the first half of this race and have since fallen back ever so slightly, but it's a 70 lap race, it's not a 35 lap race. Michi Hoyer looking for, what is that, his 22nd podium, potentially also his 6th win in the World Championship. And it is very well on the cards. Adam Maguire picking his way through Stavros Muzeidis, Alex Siebel as well. Let's not forget he's also in a very good position in terms of strategy, similar to Dennis Jordan. The Ferrari drivers have gone long. I think Siebel is 2 laps longer than Jordan, one or 2 laps longer than Jordan. So he himself is also in a good position when we get to the medium stint. So yeah, look out for Ferrari. We might well see Siebel on the podium as well.
And look in Maguire's rearview mirror. Who's coming? Jake Dennehan, first race winner of the season, and he is getting in with a shout. So the top 7 drivers really have all a chance of this podium. And again, we will have to wait until after that final pit stop, which will be coming up fairly soon. We're starting to get within range. Is this, if you pit now at the end of this lap 52, that is a long stint. 18 laps on the mediums, but a couple more laps, you might just start to open the door of at least it being possible. Whether it's fast or not is a different question, but at least it being possible as you jump back to Mika Hakimi in that 13th place. He's trying to get on the back of Lartiu, who unfortunately has just gone backwards and backwards in this race. And Hakimi there comes into the pit lane.
He does. I think that'll be his final stop of the race. Yeah, it will be. Absolutely, it will be, yeah. I forgot we're on lap 52 already, only 18 laps left to go. So it should be his final stop, and then that fight will last. We'll wait and see what he can do. Oldenmenga on the back of, is that Yukipek Galali? Yeah, indeed it is. Stavros Muzeidis has really been able to get the better of that traffic situation all the way down in P18, because Oldenmenga was just like, it essentially just stopped on the circuit. It was like, off you go. Stavros was able to just allow them through more progressively into the pit lane though for Valley eSports. Now back up to this. Michi Hoyer trying to close the gap to Liam Deval. Alex Siebel trying to close the gap to Michi Hoyer. I mean, I have to say it's Simchitch closing down Jordan, but 3rd place is fair game.
It certainly is, and the pace difference is quite big at the moment. Jordan and Simchitch 15.3s, whereas Deval 15.7, Hoyer 15.9. So there's definitely a bit of a pace difference there with the top 2. Deval hasn't been able to hold on, and with those extra couple of laps on the tyres, especially compared to Jordan, that is going to be even more difficult. And we are thinking that RHG are just struggling a little bit more with the tyres, because they have always slowed down a bit in the second half of these stints for the 3rd time now. But they are still within a shout. It's not like they're absolutely being lost, but 10th hero there always makes a big difference. As in the back there, really I'm seeing Jake Dennehan coming the way of Adam Maguire very soon. So loads of battles still to come here inside this top 7.
Indeed, so eagerly waiting for that pit stop phase, and as that Adam Maguire into it, indeed it is Jake Dennehan then in 6th. This is going to be, what, 16 laps?
It's 17 including the one
yeah, it
on.
is. 17 laps on a set of mediums.
Very much he did 18 laps earlier on hards.
Yeah.
And struggled.
Ouch.
That, I mean, okay, it is going to be possible. It's not like he's going to not be able to finish from there, but with the tyre wear that we've seen, I'm not sure that's going to be the fastest situation. But because he's pit earlier, pretty much every stint so far, that's why he's in this situation. So, that's the things that give and then take a bit later on in the race. So the drivers going long now, are they going to take that information that they had earlier, that the overcut is actually possible, and are they going to stay out more than 1 lap? Because realistically, you're going to go, so you really want to be sort of 14, 15 laps to have the speed at the end.
Indeed, so you don't want to cliff too quickly. So the longer you can take these hards, the easier time you're going to have on the mediums, and the faster time you're going to have on the mediums as well, because you're going to spend less time worrying about them and more time using them to full effect. Right now into the closing stages, and yeah, if you can go long, you are going to be doing yourself a ton of favours. Deval also in a lap later than Maguire, but Jordan, Simchitch, Hoyer and Siebel and Dennehan all stay out. RAG really haven't done themselves a lot of favours. I'm looking for Jordan and Siebel to really capitalise on this, because they've played the long game. They have really made this work since the first pit stop by going long, planting the seeds early, to now at this stage be in control.
And the hardest thing for Maguire now is because he drops so far behind Jordan, even if he does like a 2-second undercut, he's not actually going to be gaining back. And actually see there, not even close to Deval. So he's pit early, and he's not going to have that track position that he would have been wanting. So, yeah, this is a tricky situation for RHG. I think as well now, especially with someone like Jordan, being the strategist that he is, I think he's not going to be worried about this at all. I think he's going to know he's gone longer every time, and it's worked out, so he's going to go longer again and have those extra couple laps. In the background, was that Hoyer maybe spinning in the background? I saw for the Ferrari not quite facing the right way. I think Hoyer may be involved in that. Jake Dennehan has got past Alex Siebel. Alex Siebel's lost his front wing as well, I think. Potentially, yes, he has. There's been contact. Potentially, that was with Hoyer and Siebel into the hairpin.
Yeah, we're going to have to take another look. But Siebel was looking really good for a podium, and it just goes to show that 56 laps of work can all be undone at the drop of a pin. Yani Simchitch into the pit lane, but Mocek, Berlak, Hoyer, and Jordan all go an extra lap. Well, onto the mediums and back out again. Hang on. No, they.
I hope that's a graphic issue.
I hope so too. I'm not too confident with my colours, Cam, but I at least know the difference between white and yellow. At least I hope so. Simchitch, what does live timing say?
It says he's on mediums on live timing.
Okay,
so I'm hoping it is just a graphical glitch. We did see this. Was it in Bahrain as well? We were getting a little bit confused. So I'm going to hope they turn yellow. But yeah, on live timing, it does say that Simchitch, like duel, like Maguire, are all on the medium compound tyres, which they have to comply with the regulations of using 2 different compound tyres during the race. They've only used hards until now, so they have to choose, realistically, the mediums, as we're looking, of course, at the hard tyres even struggling for tyre wear around here. Jordan coming into the pit lane, so he's gone an extra, is that 3 laps of Maguire, 2 of duel, and 1 of Simchitch. So he's going to be looking good on tyres to the end, and he is going to be in a very good track position as well. He might lose a place to Simchitch, but he will at least have some nice tyres.
He will indeed. And, well, Simchitch finding his way through and up back into second place. Where is Dennis Jordan? He is ahead, is Simchitch. So they are mediums, absolutely. And now the fight is on because while Jordan's got better tyres, Simchitch has got track position. 13 laps left of round 3 of the Formula SimRacing VCO World Championship. Jordan and Simchitch, bring it on.
Yeah, this is a big moment for them. They've absolutely rinsed RHG on that strategy as well. Look how far back duel and Maguire are, and because they're on older tyres, they're not going to be coming back and fighting. This is a 2-way battle now, you would expect, in the grand scheme of things, but stranger things have happened. It is Simchitch and Jordan. We haven't seen that for a long time with them fighting. Of course, Simchitch sat out FSR last year, so you have to look back to 2021. These guys had a big battle. I remember in Spa. They crashed in Le Mans that year as well. Alex Siebel here. Let's see this replay down into the hairpin.
Well, so far, it points the signs that it's all going to be all by himself unless he goes for a monstrous send. All good so far. It's the initial mistake. You were right. It was the burst car that went sideways. It was then the Ferrari that T-boned him because there was nothing really else he could do. Simchitch has lost the lead to Dennis Jordan, though. While we were looking at the replay, Jordan has found his way through. I'm convinced that was probably just a push of a button and he found his way past.
It is a difficult situation. That DRS is so powerful, and for Simchitch, with there being so long left in the race as well, it's not like there's 3 or 4 laps to go. He doesn't want to burn all of that battery to defend, because you can dump your whole battery, on the back straight and then down the start-finish straight, try and hold on. But is it really going to be worth it if Dennis realistically is going to get past anyway? So I think he's trying to play it, a slightly smarter game and try and come back and stay within that DRS range. That is what he needs now, and it's all changed up towards the front. Jake Dennehan, because of the issues that we've seen, he's got ahead of Michi Hoyer up into the P5. That is a great job from the NX27 driver. He's slowly been working his way up, and he's done a smart race. He got Hoyer on strategy. Yannick Bock now for TX3 up into 7th place. Or actually, I think he might owe us a pit stop, unless this is his outlap. So, because it's saying he's still on those hard compound tyres. And then Mocek in behind. And unfortunately, Siebel has dropped behind Berlak for P10 as well.
At least he's still inside the top 10, so decent points going the way of Siebel, just not the points that he would have wanted by any stretch of the imagination. Jake Dennehan really impressing. I mean, obviously getting that win at Bahrain, falling a little bit down to when we went to Barcelona, but still inside the top 10, which again before 2023 would have been his best result, and now inside the top 5. So look out for Dennehan as he improves as the season comes. Yannick Bock finally back into the pit lane for his final stop will make up the rear of the top 10. Simchitch still giving Jordan a good race. However, I think Simchitch to stay in contention, particularly with the older tyres, he's going to have to use slipstream and DRS and his hybrid deployment, and also nail each and every single apex to stay within that 7/10 range of Dennis Jordan. It is an uphill battle for Simchitch, and all Jordan has to do really is save his battery, deploy it in the right places, and just be in control, which is exactly what he's doing right now.
And the difficult part for them is actually that RHG have caught down some tenths as well. 4 tenths on the previous lap. So Duval is pushing, and this is, to be honest, the only thing that they can do, because they need to get inside that DRS zone before their tyres get to that really heavily worn stage that we saw in the latter parts of the first 3 stints. So we are assuming that's going to happen again, but if they can hold on to the DRS, that will offset some of the lap time loss from the tyre wear. So for that part, Dennis and Simchitch, I mean, obviously with their strategy heads on, we'll need to think about that as an opportunity, because they don't want to make this a 4-way battle for the lead.
Yeah, indeed. So with 10 laps left to go, not long left at all, but in retrospect, maybe for Jordan, these are going to be some of the longest 10 laps of his life. For Simchitch, it might also drag one ever so slightly unless he's in a direct battle with Jordan. But R8G are going to be hoping that their tyres can hang on for all of those 10 laps, because they came in early and have been pushing like crazy. But maybe if they can get into the slipstream of Simchitch, they can sort of chill out a little bit, save their tyres and not push as hard, and then use whatever's left in sort of the final 2-3 laps to get that track position. All I do know is that it is going to be tricky for R8G, but not impossible by any means.
Yeah, this actually worked out a bit better than I thought, because they were really far behind on that first outlap. But they do have some pace, which they have had the whole race in the first 5-10 laps. It's then the second 5-10 laps that we have to worry about, especially with Maguire pitting was at 17 laps. Yeah, he is going to be struggling in those final couple laps. The good thing for them, though, is that, of course, we lost Hoyer and Siebel from this battle. Dennehan's not on the back of them, so they can just focus on themselves to catch back up, and especially in that sort of first, second sector of this lap, they really catch up with those slightly higher wings that we are expecting on that car with slight less top speed that they've got.
Yeah, but Simchitch is not worrying about top speed at all, because he's got it in bucket loads, particularly if he can save up a bit of hybrid deployment as well. Stuck behind, or not stuck behind, but behind Dennis Jordan. He's being pulled along ever so slightly, so as long as he's got some left in the battery to fall back on, it'll be a very interesting dash to the finish. Bit of lap traffic as well to contend with. So what is that? I think that is Kostas Van Vukas, B17, and etc. Yeah, they're the ones without a lap put on them. Panzar, Olmengalalu, and Muzedas are. So look out for that, because, well, it's not an endurance race or anything. The lap traffic has already thrown a spanner into the works, and might well do so again, because it all comes down to timing. And if Jordan gets the bad end of timing, Simchitch can benefit off it, but also vice versa. And maybe RHG, if they get a good run through the traffic as well, might be able to bring themselves into contention once more. It's just got a very, very tense final 8 laps of this race. And honestly, I don't really think what more could have been done better is Andre and Valerina go side by side for the top 15.
Oh, that is not a good chicane to go side by side. Valiant doesn't make it. He's going to go into the wall, and they're going to have Van Vukas coming past them 3 wide momentarily on the exit there, down towards the hairpin. Van Vukas is going to love that one. Andre now back down the inside, locks the rears, hits the valet car, and unfortunately that was just a little bit too aggressive. He's actually managed to somehow get an exit. More contact between the two. That's not what we like to see, but certainly showing you that these points matter for the teams in that mid part of the championship, of course. as the DRS is the way of the visceral driver in towards the final chicane. And of course, as you mentioned, this is just ahead of the leaders. So this is always that way. You don't want to be the last car in the battle because then you are the first one to get the blue flags. As Valeriano now, that around the outside of turn 1, that is an opportunistic move, is still trying to make it into turn 2, but manages to not quite, actually still does, up the inside, coming towards turn 3, more contact between the two. They really do not want to look at the blue flags that are coming their way in just a second, but Andre manages finally to get that position.
Dennis Jordan is going to be shaking. Am I about to enter this? Unfortunately, mate, yes you are. And if they continue this hard, then it's not going to be good news for the Scuderia Ferrari eSports driver. Hopefully they calm down and Valeriano can give way to the race leader quickly. Because, yeah, I would not want to be in Jordan's position, putting all that trust into two cars that are not in the same lap as you, closing the gap as well. Oh no, spun right in front. Darius Andre, thankfully he's well and truly out of the way. Jordan goes to the inside and gets given space from Valeriano. Simchitch has to stay behind for another corner. That could be dangerous. And spun on the apex as well. That's going to open the door for the Val.
I don't know why he didn't just let him through, and that is really going to ruin the day potentially for Simchitch. Here comes the Val down the back straight. He's going to have DRS as well, but did Simchitch maybe have DRS off the back markers? Yes, he did actually, so that was the only saving grace, and in the end manages to hold on with the extra top speed that they have. But that is not how you do blue flags there from the Valley driver. And I know you don't lose time yourself, but the battle was gone with Andre spinning, so there's no reason to do that. And then, of course, locking the rears as well put them all at danger of getting damage.
Particularly on the apex of the slowest corner on the circuit, and when you're all bunched up, there's no Simchitch did a good job as he did to react. Now 1 second is the gap to Dennis Jordan outside of slipstream range, which means Simchitch is going to have to either burn through his battery or his tyres or both to get back within 7/10 of a second to benefit from the DRS range, which is going to put a bit of a dent. It might take a mistake from Dennis Jordan. Liam Duval also is probably going to be quite gutted that he wasn't able to capitalise as much. Mitchie Hoyer as well, being chased down by Jake Denahan and Davin Rodger also for company. So still plenty going on. I just have to say that all goes well for Dennis Jordan, and he's with each lap that goes by is one less lap that Simchitch can catch back up.
Yeah, that opening of the gap was quite important. Simchitch is pulling away from Duval though, so he's obviously dumping his battery that he was saving behind Jordan. Look at that, at the gap. Duval was trying to have a go at him, remember, into that corner last lap. But this time around, he's about a second ahead. Amazing stuff as the Valley driver there gets out of the way. Hoyer is defending hard now. Jake Denahan, the Irishman, coming towards turn number 1. Not really an overtaking opportunity this time around, as that Rodger coming in behind. He's had such an amazing race to get up this field, but of course the battling ahead has helped that, considering he's had a pretty quiet race himself. Denahan on the back of Hoyer though into this first and second sector. He needs to just catch up and wait for the slipstream a bit later on.
Yeah, I think so. It's probably going to be game plan. 5 laps left to go then. But what a race it's been, and what a race it might well continue to be as well. Plenty of ups and downs, a roller coaster of emotions for so many different people. I have enjoyed every second, and now Jake Denahan is trying to get himself back inside the top 5 and gain some more championship points, maybe limit the damage to Simchitch in the championship. Late on the brakes into the hairpin, trying to get a late apex. Very squirmy on the exit. We see that time and time again with these cars, trying to put the power down. So much power and torque going to those rear wheels, and no assists to help you along the way either. So that hairpin must be very sketchy as a driver to work your way through. Well, how difficult is it, Cam? Because a traction zone like that in cars like these is definitely one I wouldn't want to do.
Yes, not a nice hairpin. The entry is actually quite nice. The little sort of kink into the braking zone, that's nice. And then you try and get all the power, and then just nothing happens. The wheel spinning all over the place. It is a tricky one, and of course there's sort of like a little kink on the exit as well, like the grass just suddenly comes out on the left hand side, so you have to pull it back to the right, obviously putting a little bit of lateral load. It's certainly an awkward, tricky little hairpin, but it's good because he goes out onto an overtaking opportunity. And talking of overtaking opportunities, I think that might become the way of Jake Denahan on the way of Mitchie Hoyer, but also I don't know what Maguire and Duval are going to do. Are they actually going to push? Because they've really lost the time to Yani Simchitch. They've got a back marker in between them, and they've got to be careful because Hoyer, Denahan, and now Rodger is starting to catch up to them.
They are indeed, and I think RHG are in a bit of a pickle as their tyres start to drop off, as they maybe lose the slipstream to Yani Simchitch, who himself is losing a lot of time to Dennis Jordan. It might well be an anticlimactic end to this battle, as Rodger on the back of Jake Dennehan as well. Very, very close. 7 cars, not really separated by much, only 6 seconds off the lead, which just speaks volumes of the competitiveness of this grid. Jake Dennehan, though, still searching for a way through on Michi Hoyer. However, aspirations could even be a little bit higher than a top 5 for Dennehan. If Hoyer, Rodger, Dennehan, if they all play their cards right, a podium, it's on the cards. It's not a million miles away. All they have to do is nail the final few laps of this race.
Yeah, they do. But lap 67 of 70, this race has actually gone through pretty quickly, I would say. There's been action up and down the field, and especially at the front here. We've got another back marker there. Van Bucas, I believe, is still getting in the way of the RHG drivers and actually almost diving it down the inside. That has not worked out well. Maguire saw that and basically cut the chicane because he didn't want to get crashed from behind. And Hoyer in behind. He's got Dennehan very, very close to him now. In towards the hairpin now. Michi just slightly locks the rears. Once again, we saw that a little bit earlier. Cost him the time and the contact with Siebel. Now out onto this back straight. Who has the top speed? Who has the battery left in their car? 3 laps to go at the line. You can start dumping it now. Hoyer just slightly defensive there. Just having a look up the inside of Maguire. He needs to hold them behind.
He does. Now the pressure is on for Hoyer. He's got to attack in order to defend, because otherwise Dennehan is going to start getting a little bit frustrated and waiting for an opportunity through final 3 laps now of this race. 68 of 70, and Hoyer is practically pushing the RHG driver through. I think Maguire is going to try to act as a rear gunner and still allow RHG to get onto the podium. However, the fact that RHG is still scraping for a podium despite locking out the front row probably is a little bit disappointing for them as an outfit. But Hoyer, Dennehan, Rodger have all been given this opportunity now to fight for it. They're all on slightly fresher medium tyres. They've just got to do some pushing and a bit of overtaking as well along the way. Jordan and Simchitch, I think, are in a world of their own. No changes amongst the top 2. As I say, that place is fair game and bring it on. I think, I don't know, I honestly, to be fair, I don't actually know what I think. I don't know who's going to come out on top of this, because it could go any way, and it could just be a case of who makes the least mistakes.
And this just shows you how in FSR, it's not always about whether you are the fastest car out there, but you've got to be strategic and you've got to make your moves at the right time. And is the right time going to be now? Oh wow, massive change of direction there from all the drivers. Michi unfortunately locks the rears and he goes around, but that was a massively late swerve to the side, both from Maguire and also Hoyer. Would love to see that one again, and that's given the opportunity now for Dennehan. He's got a free run at the RHG cars. Maguire making a mistake into turn 1 yet again, obviously struggling a little bit, and their tyres are going to be absolutely screaming at this time. Rodger sitting in behind waiting for an opportunity too.
He is indeed. So unfortunate for Michi Hoyer, whose dream of a top 5 is now dwindled. Jake Dennehan, though, now becomes the front line, and, well, he is going to be fast and is going to be very feisty as well, for good measure, over the course of the final lap and a half that we've got left to go of this Canadian Grand Prix. Bit of a twitch there from Adam Maguire. Liam Duval not a million miles away as well, but he needs to make moves now, not in a lap's time. He needs to get through on Adam Maguire to at least line up Duval for that final lap, and a bit shaky off the hairpin. It's probably now or never for Jake Dennehan.
Yeah, as you say, he needs to get this first one so he has the opportunity for the second one later on. In towards the final chicane, we saw Maguire's defence 1 lap ago against Hoyer. Doesn't need to be any sort of the major things, but we come on to the final lap. The top 2 are probably settled, but who is going to be on that final step of the podium? 4 cars battling. Dennehan comes to the outside now of turn 1. The 2 Irishmen go side by side momentarily, but Maguire holds on, and they still just manage to stay in this single file formation. I tell you what, RHG's defence today has been aggressive, but it has been working pretty well.
It really has, and well, as aggressive as they have been, it's worked. It's been clean for the most part, bar that one thing with Yani Simchitch at the hairpin. They've been able to racecraft their way through onto a podium, and now with about 2/3 of a lap left to go, it's crunch time, and Maguire is being a perfect rear gunner for RHG, who are trying to hang on to 3 and 4. Dennehan is running out of opportunities. An apex through is an apex that could have been an opportunity to find a way through, but Dennis Jordan strategical masterclass and is going to get Scuderia Ferrari eSports their first win in FSR. Look at that, Danahan, oh my word, through the hairpin.
Yes, it's going to be Ferrari taking their first victory in FSR. It was Dennis Jordan who came out on top on the strategy, and he's going to come across the line to win the Canadian Grand Prix and to put his name on these sheets. But in the bottom right-hand corner, we're going to see side by side across the line all sorts of carnage. RHG in the wall, Rodger coming past. It's going to be Duval getting third place from Jake Danahan, and Maguire. Something happened there at the final chicane. He loses out and goes down to 6th place. Rodger from 15th up to 5th. He'll be happy with that, as we see Hoyer, Burlak, Siebel, and then Yannick Bott for TX3 rounding out the top 10. All sorts of carnage there on that final lap, as we can't quite have enough time to put our praise for Dennis Jordan and also Yani Simchitch in behind, having the strategy to make it a 1-2. But unfortunately for Simchitch, that back marker just, taking him out of the DRS of Jordan.
Yeah, I think it was it was a shame, and probably the deciding factor in that race. Not to say that Jordan wouldn't have won or Yerne would have if things had been different, but very hard fought battling and a very, very successful race as well. Sensational stuff, and what a way to round off the first third of this season. I'm looking forward to more. Bring it on.
Yes, that was a hectic race, and just get a couple of points from you, Zach. Obviously, what do you expect? What do we expect to see? Really, we thought there was going to be action with the nature of the track, but I mean that was almost too much action at certain points of the race.
It was hard to keep up with ever so slightly, but well, there's the final finishing order of things. Dennis Jordan, so quick, and did such a good job to take the victory of that race. I think that from start to finish, it was so good and overwhelmed with action at some points, as you say. The battling throughout the entirety of the top 10, even beyond as well, was brilliant. Yanis Simchitch, Jordan going toe-to-toe in that battle for the strategy. While a lot of it was hard fought on track, a lot of it was also won or lost in the pit lane. RHG have had their ups and downs today as well, but still managed to get a podium. Great resurgence from Jake Danahan as well. Tom Lartley just outside the top 10 as well. So much action all packed in to one race, and we initially thought, Cam, that it'd be a bit of a slow burn. It'd be gradually given to us as the race built on because of the strategical dependence. Didn't matter to them at all. They fought tooth and nail from lap 1, and that is exactly what we love to see.
And let's get a word from the race winner himself. Dennis Jordan, of course, sat in that sort of 4th place for quite a while on the back of Yerne Simchitch. Dennis, congratulations, your first win of the season, and of course first with Ferrari as well. How was that for you?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I saw quite early on that we had a pretty good car here. You know, sitting there on the train, the first few laps behind the REGs and Yerne. I kind of knew that our package was a bit quicker. I think we did a good job the last weeks. You know, they were a bit stressful for us. You know, we had some great and exciting adventures together with Ferrari, going to Le Mans and visiting the factory last week. So not much time to practice, but still shows that, you know, we do a good job when we prepare, and hopefully we can keep this up for the next races.
Yeah, and certainly the strategy was sort of what came out on top. How was it for you? Because of course, you know, we mentioned this during the broadcast, it wasn't like the most grip out there on track. Of course, we had the softer sort of compounds of tyres here. How sort of difficult was that to work out? You made the right decision in the end, but how hard was it to make that decision?
Yeah, it's really tough here because the circuit is so low grip in general. So you're really fighting to keep the tires beneath you all stint long. Really, from lap 1 of the stint, you're just looking at the tires, and I think that's something that suits us and has always in the past as well. So that certainly helped us. I think in the end, as you said, we did great calls. Anthony, our engineer, he probably is the MVP today. He made the deciding call in the end to do that overcut. So that was great.
And yeah, congratulations, and hopefully we'll speak to you at a race later on this season.
Thank you.
And now we'll bring in Yerne Simchitch. A very hectic race for you today, Yerne. You went up and down. I think you were in pretty much all of the positions up there towards the front. You had the lead at some point. You went behind, had loads of battles. Just explain your race from your point of view.
it was very complicated, and in the end, it turned out that I just need to spend everything I have, all the resources, on somehow getting out ahead of the REG guys, and I needed to completely forget about Dennis. I knew he would be probably my main competitor in the last stint because we always had the better pace after the tires settled in. So yeah, I just needed to do undercuts and a lot of push to pass using and then surviving shunts with REG guys. And yeah, like it was not ideal. It was my race to win somehow. I think like before, like 2 weeks ago, we were talking with Dennis actually, like he was unhappy with the track and everything. I said, well, I love this track. I'm gonna win it. And yeah, I think I had the pace to do it, but yeah, what happened on track a couple of times was, well, probably amazing to watch, but from my point of view, it was not so nice to see. But all right, I'm happy that we scored most points with Rd.3 Sport next to you, with David, and I extended my lead in the championship standing. So I think that's very good.
Yeah, certainly a hectic race for you. So yeah, congratulations, and we'll see you next time out, hopefully.
Thank you.
And to finish off the podium, we'll bring in Liam Duval of R8G. Led the race for probably the most laps out of the 70 today. Unfortunately, came up short in that third place. And yeah, you tried your hardest, but Liam, just not quite enough for the win today.
Yeah, in the end, quite a big gap. But well, I can be happy with the podium. I did the lap of my life in quali. I did a 10.935 in practice, and I was like, I'm never equaling this. And somehow I did that. I'm never doing that again in any quali session. But yeah, I think what cost us was the big wing difference. In Barcelona, we did the same, the RAG roadblock. But then we had the lowest wings, or at least equal with some others. But right here, we were just sitting ducks on the straight. And honestly, yeah, it's clear they focused on race pace more than us. It showed. And we had a lot going on. That practice wasn't optimal. So I'm very confident for Silverstone that we're finally going to get a win, but let's see.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because your pace was really good, to be honest, but you were obviously just struggling a little bit with the tyre wear, and yeah, maybe you had slightly more setup, quali setup as such compared to the race. And yeah, was that sort of part of your intentions, or was that just how it played out?
Oh yeah, as I said, we had a lot going on, like in our personal life, so we didn't really do that much laps as much as we wanted. So we kind of just full focused on quali until yesterday, which kind of paid off, it seems. Somehow our setup is very good in the quali, also in Barcelona. But yeah, it does definitely cost us in the race. Usually we just do race prep and then do the quali like 2 days before. And that's how it's going to be for Silverstone too. So yeah, definitely a different approach for the next race.
Well, definitely a couple of podiums coming the way of RHG recently. So yeah, you're on a good trend. So yeah, we'll see you later this season.
Thank you very much, guys.
And that concludes the interviews for today, but certainly a very intriguing race we had here. But that is not the only race to come, of course. We've got 6 more to go out of 9. We had 3. We had Bahrain, Barcelona, and now Montreal. We'll go to Silverstone next 16th of July. So what's that, about 3 weeks away or so before we go to Imola, Spa, Monza, Suzuka and Sao Paulo to round out the season there on the 15th of August. Well, that is it from us here. The FSR VCO World Championship, the Canadian Grand Prix is done, and Dennis Jordan came out on top with Scuderia Ferrari eSports. Myself, Cam Rodger and Zach Sweeney bringing you through the action. We had Daniel Costello behind the scenes on the production as well. But we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
Who's going to break this world title?
These two go. Is going to do it. His first victory.
World Championship is done.
What a race it's been.